Good evening, Mr. Galati. How are you, my friend?
And good afternoon,
How are
Mrs.
you today?
I'm well. I'm well. After an anxiety, emotional day, that's me when I get angry with things and upset about things, and I'm very very well.
It all
And
works out in the end, Eric.
you have to go forward. You must. It's like when I was going through a very difficult time in England because life is up and down. A Monsignor close to his 90s would say to me at the Brompton Oratory, but he had the eyes of a gentle child. He would say, if you fall down, just pick yourself up and go forward, go forward. Don't ever
It's
give
like
up.
keep calm and carry on, as they say, right?
That's right.
Well, a few weeks ago, Eric, I ran something across you, didn't I? Something you'd never seen before, had you?
No, I never ever saw it. And it makes me, I often say, well, I'm back to zero with this case. It does make me go back to zero because every new piece of evidence makes you rethink something. And it is a fascinating piece of evidence. Fascinating.
So I won't name who brought this to my attention, but this is the letter in question. Not that one. This one. All right, which you can see is indecipherable, right? It's very, very like the ink has just disappeared from it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I ran it through Chat GPT, and this is what it gave me back. All right, so I'm going to read this out. Reconstructed letter, improved version with D channel identified, uncertain words in brackets. Mr. Maury Terry Street address, White Plains, New York, 1060 question mark. And it's dated 11th of some month, 1979.
No,
And this is
that
one of
was
the earliest letters I've seen.
yeah. The 11th is the month of November.
Yeah. Over here, it's the days first and then the month.
Yeah,
And then
I have to watch out when I do it that way. Yeah. Now the missing number of 1060 is the last number of his postal code.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I say, this is one of the earliest letters I've ever seen between David and Maury. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't on the People versus David Berkowitz. This is in the Maury Terry files. I think because it was so hard to read, they just didn't even put it on the website.
Uh-huh.
So ChatGPT reconstructed it. Dear Mr. Terry, I received the letters that both you and Sheriff Dawn sent me. Before I go any further, I want to straighten out something that seems to have been misunderstood. The woman you heard from is Dee Channel. She did not go to the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office. Apparently, you were led to believe she was dealing with them. That is completely false. She had no contact whatsoever with the Santa Clara authorities. In fact, she never claimed to have any inside information about the case. She never told you anything about the supposed 4 cult victims. The only thing she did was write to Joe Jenkins or Janelle, don't know who that is, some time ago, 1977, I think, regarding Nevada, Utah, etc. But it was never in reference to Gardner or the Santa Clara case. In short, nobody, especially not me, ever told her to contact you, nor did I tell her to use Joe's telephone number, since that is a closely controlled line. D Channel's phone number is 7 blah 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 blah, and she is totally unaware of Joe's number. I still think you have someone out there in California who is pretending to have information, someone who misrepresented themselves as being connected with the Santa Clara and Arizona police departments. She is not, as you were told, my main contact, nor is she feeding stories to the press. The woman at the Associated Press at Rockefeller Center on the 4th floor took her message by mistake. The Associated Press woman had just returned to New York after spending 3 days out west, which is probably what caused the mix-up. Dee is not tied to the investigation or the case. Please do not contact her again, as she was only trying to help and not mislead you. My attorney, Mr. Sylvie, has been notified, and the ACLU will also be made aware of the situation. As I said, Dee only contacted the authorities in California on her own, out of personal concern. And the last part, let's clear up this matter from here on. I did not write Jerry in haste. I'm sorry, but I don't have anything else to add. I don't know who contacted the investigators or the woman involved. I strongly suggest you drop this matter. Sincerely, Berkowitz. So what do you make of that, Eric?
I find this to be, and if anybody else out there knows of this letter and has never spoken of it, contribute something. So we're not challenging whomever it could be out there, but this is the most unique and unusual letter, one of the most foremost that I've ever come across, written by David Berkowitz. I went over the letter and I said that on the one hand, first place, I find it to be cryptic in areas, almost as if there's here and there something maybe that's hidden. Because he expresses, but then he holds back and forth, but he's writing very well. And because he writes so well, I find it to be mostly a letter of fear. I think there's fear in this letter. I find it, but with a deliberate hidden meaning that alludes to facts, but he is frightened. And there's anxiety, but he's also eager for Terry to comprehend him, what he really might signify. I mean, when somebody says, I strongly suggest you drop this matter, that's like a combination of a plea and a warning.
Well,
what I mean, a normal person would say, well, you know, as I would say, thank you for having an interest in this, but there's nothing more I can, give you or suggest or tell you. But it's a complex letter. I find it to be the most unique writing that I've come across by Berkowitz. One of about 3 or 4, and it opens up a lot of ideas to me, especially if I cross-refer what he says in this letter with chapters 16, 17, and 18 in The Ultimate Evil.
Well, let me set the stage here. So Santa Clara Police is essentially dealing with the Arliss Perry case, okay?
Yeah, and Santa Clara, for those who don't know, there's people probably abroad or wherever, is in California.
Right. I've got something else to show, just to kind of set the stage a little bit more. All right. So this is from a Facebook group. I won't name it. It's nothing to do with Son of Sam. All right. But I don't think many people know this. All right. So I'm just going to put this out here.
I don't.
On this date, I received a call from Sergeant John Johnson of the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office in California, where he stated he'd heard bits and pieces about a great suspect by the name of Bundy in Salt Lake for our murders. He was very much interested in this fact, as he had 3 girls go down out of the Stanford University area that had been beaten about the head and strangled, and one of them had been stabbed with an ice pick. I informed him that our girls had been beaten about the head and strangled. He did not have any with an ice pick wound, but when arrested Mr. Bundy initially, he had an ice pick in his possession. He said he was very interested in do some more checking, and he wanted me to send him a picture of the individual, some information. Excerpt from Salt Lake County Sheriff's Deputy Jerry Thompson. Reported date dated October 31st, 1975.
Now, who wrote that? That's an excerpt from the law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
Okay, and that name, the first Christian name Jerry, is mentioned at the end of the letter you just read. Let's clear up the matter from here on. I did not write Jerry in haste.
Yes.
So he's saying he wrote to him, but it wasn't in haste.
Yeah. So it could be the same Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
The California... Sorry?
There is a plurality. I don't know who connected the investigators or the women involved. I strongly suggest you drop this. Now, he's talking about a connection of investigators and women, not because it's not as if, you know.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Let's finish. The California investigator was referring to the murders of Alice Perry, Leslie Perloff, and Janet Taylor, all young women who were murdered between 1973 and 1974 in Palo Alto. 19-year-old Alice Perry had gone to pray alone at Stanford Memorial Church in the late evening of October 12, 1974. Her body was discovered the following morning by a campus security guard. She had been awed and strangled and had an ice pick protruding from the back of her head, which ultimately caused her death. Bizarrely, the young woman had also been essayed with a meter-long altar candle, which grotesquely left in situ by her killer. Leslie Perloff and Janet Taylor's bodies were found in wooded areas near the Stanford campus, both beaten, awed, and strangled with articles of their own clothing. Ted Bundy had previously attended Stanford University during the summer of 1967 and was considered a suspect in all three cases for decades. But there was never enough evidence to place him in the area at the time of the murders, and he consistently denied all involvement. Santa Clara County Sheriff Sergeant Ken Kahn, which is in Josh Stevens' documentary, Ken Kahn, and he dealt with Maury Terry, attended the FBI's multi-agency conference on the Bundy killings in February 1989 and reported that while Bundy's MO fit the Perloff case, they were ultimately unable to link him to it. Stanford University Police Chief Marvin Harrington said, "We looked at Bundy for a long time for the murder of Alice Perry, but we could never tie him in." Finally, in the summer of 2018, DNA technology would identify Stephen Crawford, the security guard who claimed to have found Alice Perry's body, as her murderer. The police descended upon his apartment to execute a search warrant. The 72-year-old Crawford realized he'd been caught and shot himself before he could be brought to justice. Leslie Perloff and Janet Taylor's cases were also solved in 2018 when genetic genealogy linked a local man named John Gertrude to semen evidence from both crimes. A Stanford hospital technician, Gertrude, had a previous art and murder conviction in West Germany, had been paroled and released before moving to California. He was convicted of Janet Taylor's murder in September 2021 and pleaded guilty to Leslie Perloff's in January 2023, claiming that he'd only killed her because she had resisted his attempt to awe her. Sentenced to 2 life terms without parole, John Gertrude died before bars of natural causes only 9 months later. So you have Ted Bundy was also a suspect in Alice Perry's killing, just like Manson too, right? Mm-hmm. Which ties us into this story.
But the difference, though, correct me if I'm wrong, Bundy was, I mean, I don't go by everything that is official, But let's say law enforcement did suspect Ted Bundy. Law enforcement. They suspected him, but no proof. Nothing discovered.
Well, Eric, and
Wait,
this brings me on to my next point.
but wait, with Bill Manson too, I don't know of law enforcement, from what I know, suspecting him of the Arliss Perry murder.
What do you mean, Eric?
We learn of Manson too, Bill Manson. Do
Yeah.
we first from David Berkowitz? No, he names him. Does he not name him first?
Well, we will get on to that later, but essentially, where did that information come from? Did Dee tell Maury? Did Dee make up a letter? There is a chapter in Ultimate Evil I want to read that might make this more clearer. But the next point I wanted to make before we continue is that also David Berkowitz suspected Ted Bundy of killing Arliss Perry. Now,
Right.
I'll show you here.
But
All right.
but Berkowitz is the same man, though, who says that he was at a cult meeting and a
Yes.
statement is made that Bill Mensner in 1975, it was really revealed, killed
Yes.
Arliss Perry.
Okay. Let me get to this point, okay? Dear Dr. Abrahamson, enclosed in this letters are 7 letters which are typed carbons of letters that were sent to a friend of mine on the West Coast. Both her and her husband, as well as myself, are fellow crime buffs. She is also a Christian who is involved with counseling people who are taken in, conned by occult groups. Lately, all 3 of us have been following the Bundy and Hillside Strangler cases closely. I've done a lot of writing and studying myself regards to these 2 guys as well as myself. I hope you enjoy these carbons of my letters to Dee as well as my analysis of myself and other psychopaths. I also hope that you can read these carbons as some aren't very dark. If you have any questions about these enclosures, let me know. As you will see, Dee and I have many interests in common. However, please keep her name confidential. Lastly, she asked about you and she knows of our correspondence. Like me, she too hopes that you could accomplish the task of explaining my mind and life to the public. She also asked me for a list of your books, some of which she read and enjoyed. Dee also sent me a copy of your story that appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle. It was a duplicate of the New York Times story magazine, etc. Wishing you well, David Berkowitz. Please keep Dee's name confidential and you may keep these letters. So this is where it gets interesting. Dear Dee, you're so funny sometimes, really you are. What do you mean your old age is just around the corner? False teeth, grey hairs, pills, eyeglasses, and walking cane? For you, maybe in another 40 years. Heck, you're only 29 and a half. And make it 29 3/4 this now. You've got a long way to go before things like this are upon you. Judging from pictures of you, your beauty, your pep vigor, sex appeal, and youthful mind, why? You're just a kid. I got letters 60 and 61 from you, plus the 2 magazine. I also got the 13 stamps. Thanks for all of it. D, getting back to Ted. I would like to see the book when and if it comes out. I also have questions about the victims. Do you, from your extensive investigation into the Bundy case, think that he also murdered Arliss Perry? She was a teenage girl from California who was found slain and left on top of a church altar somewhere in that state. I would also be interested in knowing about the victims, such as, were any of them true Christians? If you know any information, I would appreciate hearing about it. So here you have David essentially asking her, do you think Ted Bundy did it? But hang on a minute, David. I thought you told Maury that Manson too did it and you heard about it at a party in 1975.
Okay, I can piece it together now that you've read this. This is what I meant by the official report being released that you read from that law enforcement officer about law enforcement suspecting Ted Bundy of those three murders, correct? One would be Arliss Perry. They never proved it that it was Ted Bundy. So that was not something that was necessarily private. That was open. What?
Yes, but Eric, if David already knew that Manson 2 did it, why is he questioning whether it's Ted Bundy?
Because it's 4 years later and he hears the police report that they suspected Ted Bundy.
Yeah, but he already thinks in his mind that Manson 2 killed Arliss. So why is he asking D if
Why? Because look, we are at a meeting. A man stands up at this occult meeting and says, I murdered Arliss Perry. He is identified as Manson 2. His name is Bill Mensner, right? But now, was there ever anyone that proved Bill Mensner killed Arliss Perry? A statement is right, but a statement is made within an occult group. He tells Maury Terry that. Now, when did he tell Maury Terry? This is important. What date did he tell Maury Terry that?
Okay, well, I don't know, Eric. I can only go by what's in the Ultimate Evil, which is this chapter here.
Right. You see, because it's important, Rena, to know the date he told Maury Terry that, the sequence of events.
I don't know if he did, Eric.
Okay. All right. But he then 4 years later asks Dee Channel because she had an interest in the Arliss Perry case. And therefore, he was aware that law enforcement was now considering Ted Bundy. So he could always say, well, they seem to think he might have committed the murders. And there was never anything proven. Law enforcement never openly said there's a guy called Bill Mensner involved, known as Manson 2.
What I'm taking from this, Eric, is that David take Mensner out of it. David's questioning D here. Do you think Ted Bundy killed Arliss? If he was so certain that Manson 2 would, why is he questioning whether Ted Bundy did this?
We have to get to where he states about Mensner.
Okay, so in this chapter, Hunted, Stalked, Slain, reads as follows. John Carr may have been dead, but his ghost haunted the investigation of the murder of Arliss Perry. All right. Berkowitz specifically said Carr wasn't involved in her death, but he did link her killing to the North Dakota cult scene in this manner.
Okay, the question is this. Why did the ghost of John Carr haunt the investigation of the murder of Arliss Perry? How does John Carr enter it? We know how Mensner does in Bundy. How does he become a specter that haunts that investigation?
Don't worry, because I didn't commit this crime, he wrote to Lee Chase in November 79. So the letter I just showed you was dated June 79. And this letter I'm reading you out of this chapter in this book is dated November of 79.
Right. So that.
Okay. Nor was I present when it was done. Back in 1974, I was busy and at work as a piss poor paid security guard. I was here in New York, but, and I say but, in my travels with different people. And there's a picture of Mensa just for context, okay? With different people in this area, I met someone who was involved in her death and spoke freely of the slaying, bragging. He knew many details, and I know that this guy, Manson 2, doesn't bull. I know he killed often, him and his crew. Colt, this is what this new investigation was going to rest on. You, as a natural detective, can't help at this time but notice a strange coincidence here. Many months ago, I inquired about Arliss Perry. If you'll note your newspaper clip, she hails from Bismarck. Bismarck is just south of Minot. Minot is a second focal point of this investigation, next to Yonkers and Westchester County. This is why I mentioned her to you, as compared with the other multitudes of other murders of young women. Why her? Simply because I knew beforehand where she once lived. Also, I knew it was a cult thing. Berkowitz had told Santa Clara detective Kahn and Beck that he met Manson too at a cult meeting in New York. He told Chase the same thing. Are you with me, Eric?
Yes, I am.
I was at first thrown off by the Manson 2 statement, since it appeared to contradict Berkowitz in another way. He said the man and his cult killed often, and he also said Arliss was hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California. If that was so, and the answer to the murder or the motive lay in Bismarck, then where Manson 2 and the cult doing all these alleged killings? As Berkowitz himself wrote, North Dakota boasted an extremely low crime rate, and the murder was relatively rare occurrence there.
Good logic on Terry's part.
For quite some time, I was troubled by this problem. Then a source very close to Berkowitz straightened me out. The seeming contradiction was actually a clue, as was the name Manson too. For a moment, I will get ahead to the story to explain the significance of Manson 2, as stated by the source, whom I will call Vinny. Manson 2 wasn't from North Dakota, Vinny said. He was from the LA area. That's where the Sam cult had its headquarters. The North Dakota branch wanted Arliss dead, and they called California for help. Manson 2 went north to Stanford to arrange it. At least one, maybe two people from Dakota came out to help, but it was Manson 2's show to run. He was involved with the original Manson and the cult there in LA. That's why Berkowitz used the name as a clue. This information was overwhelming. It was at first hard to believe, but Vinny wasn't done. This guy was an occult superstar. They used him for the most important jobs. Berkowitz met him in New York because he was imported from the coast to participate in the Son of Sam killings. He's the guy who shot Christine Freund in the Son of Sam case. And he was around for some of the others. He was back and forth. But he did Freund, and he was in New York for, I think, some of the later ones. Are you following me, Eric? Is this making sense to you?
Well, it makes sense, but it's very, it's a whirligig.
Yeah.
It goes all over the place, really. It stretches the imagination. Because now he says he was around for some of the others. It's almost, now, this is written by, this is Vinny?
Yeah, it's like a mixture of Vinny and David by the looks of things.
Yeah, okay.
It was Berkey at the start, and it's merged into Vinny.
Yeah, it's what he's doing is that Terry is trying to prove what Berkowitz has said by way of this Vinny and Danny, a composite of one person, and it actually it adds a great deal of confusion, really. I mean, I can't accept it as the truth about Manson, too, being around for some of the others. It's like the old saying, a rabbit is pulled out of a hat, and where did it come from? It doesn't make any sense. It's almost as if it's put forth to confuse people.
Well, Eric, obviously we don't have the letters in their entirety that D Channel had, and we also don't know what D Channel was telling Maury Terry.
That's right.
And we know that David abruptly ceased his relationship with D Channel for whatever reason.
So, what do you think, though? I mean, I can't come to an analysis of this, but I don't like the way it's logically put together.
I
There's
I
no.
don't know where the Manson 2 story came from, Eric, where it originated. Was it fed to David? Is it manipulation by Maury? Is it manipulation by D Channel? Who knows?
I haven't come across where D Channel wrote of Manson 2. She may have. We don't know.
We
Because
do not know what D was telling Maury.
that's right. And a lot of these people whom I don't respect, they're into blood money, are selling letters of hers that are never made public. And I just, the Manson 2, I just don't, why would they have him come to New York to kill Christina Freund? Why would they get Manson? I'm not
So,
one who discards it, but there's not enough information to sustain it. Now, when you read where he's asking D Channel, do you think Ted Bundy killed Arliss Perry? Is that before or after the letter by him regarding Manson 2?
Before.
Before.
Mm-hmm.
And then that subsequent letter, he's quite indicative in November.
Yeah.
In that letter in the book,
Yeah.
he assented saying it was Bill Mensner.
Yeah. So he's changed his story again if he indeed wrote that to D.
Yeah. What about Ted Bundy?
The truth. Yeah. So from what I gather, the letter is dated June 1979, where David is asking D, do you think Ted Bundy killed Arliss Perry? Is it because serial killers that I read you there, they were both true crime buffs. D and her husband were true crime buffs, so was David. He was looking at the Hillside Stranglers. He was looking at Ed Kemper. He was looking at Ted Bundy. He was looking at Zodiac. D Channel was she was very much into the occult. She was sending David articles. She was sending David books. I believe she sent David what was sent to Terry Gardner in October of 79. Arliss Perry hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California. That's clearly David's handwriting, although Terry Gardner claimed it was John Carl's for some odd reason. You can clearly see that's David's handwriting. Mm-hmm. I think David was purely interested in Arliss Perry's killing because he's a true crime buff.
Yeah, but he's an interesting crime buff, though. He's more than just a crime buff because he is a man who, either alone or with others, murdered. He is a murderer. See, it's different than a crime buff like D Channel. They have the same interest, but there's always within the mind of his mind the fact that he has committed suicide, homicide. He has slain people. That's the difference between him and even you and I.
Well, for some unknown reason, during the Queen's DA investigation, David sent these articles and this book, The Anatomy of Witchcraft, to Terry Gardner and Minot. And inside the book, he wrote, Arliss Perry hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California. For whatever reason, I think that may have already been in the book. He also sent him these articles for some unknown reason. David didn't end up cooperating with the Queen's DA investigation for some.
I'm thinking that he's sending this to other law enforcement people, but he won't cooperate with the district attorney's office. Except for the fact that he writes, it's quoted in The Ultimate Evil. He says to D Channel, and this letter is Lee, who's given the name for security reasons, Lee Chase. This is at the time that he knows of the Associated Press journalists Pianchak and Gilroy. Now, Gilroy is the attorney at law in the Mitiga case. He knows of Santucci. He knows of the Middle of Silence gallery of artists, poets, painters, and so forth who have an interest in serial murder associated with Satanism. He knows of a sheriff in Minot. Here's what he writes to her. He makes it very, very mysterious, as if it's like Sherlock Holmes and, what was it, Dr. Watson? He says, he says to D Channel, I'm just warning you to be careful here. As I say, all of these above mentioned, these names and groups I just read, are somehow related. If you know what I mean, let's use tact and caution and let us remember how tragic the situation is for someone like my father. Oh, yes, something else. The DA obtained a copy of my mailing list here. So this is how they will contact you. So he's telling her that the district attorney's office is going to contact her because they got a copy legally of his mailing list somehow. We hope legally. It could have been illegal, but then that brings up another point that Maury Terry is D Channel the informant that Maury Terry does not want to name to Herbert Leifer.
Yes, I said that in the last show we did on
Yeah,
Maury Terry's audio.
right.
Yeah.
Do we definitely know it's D Channel though? Is it
I would almost put my life on it's D Channel.
Okay,
yes.
So that's very interesting. That's very interesting, and it contradicts this letter, or it's a letter of concern that makes Berkowitz frightened because he knows that D Channel and Maury Terry know each other.
I've got a sneaky suspicion that D Channel was feeding misinformation to Maury Terry, and that's why David was warning Maury to stay away from her.
Yeah, he said,
Maury ended up going with the Arla story, anyways, even though David's warning him, stay away from this. But Maury went ahead and put it in the book, anyways.
Now, when D Channel contacted Maury Terry, did he know initially she was D Channel? Because he writes this sentence as if he's informing him, the woman you heard from is D Channel. He doesn't say it was D Channel who contacted you. He says the woman you heard from. And when he says she did not go to the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office, in this same letter, he says to Terry, as I said, Dee only contacted the authorities in California on her own out of personal concern. It contradicts that. What authorities would she contact in California other than Santa Clara?
Eric,
it's a contradiction.
We don't have Dee's letters. We don't know what she was saying to Maury.
Do you follow me though on that?
Yes.
Contradiction. Berkowitz himself contradicts what he's saying. There's a contradiction here.
The more I think about it, Eric, the more I'm starting to believe that it wasn't really David feeding Maury the information. It was everybody else. I've only found 6 letters in total from David to Maury between 79 and 81. Then the letters cease up until 1991, which there's 1 letter. And then the majority of the letters from David to Maury come around 1993, around the time of Inside Edition.
I agree with you that very well could be the truth. That not that Maury Terry never discovered anything. He was investigating and writing well, but the problem is that there were topics and subjects and people that he never would have come across unless he was fed that information. Now, obviously, you're going to be fed information if you're investigating, but the information he was getting was not his world. It's like somebody I read to you about in The Ultimate Evil, who we'll do a show on in the future. And we were having a private talk with Paul, where Terry didn't have a clue about the world of the occult and demonology. He didn't know anything at the time of the process Church of the Final Judgment, and he's being given this information. And the information has no direct contact to the son of Sam. So the third factor is you got D channel, you got people and people feeding information. If D channel
Yes.
to Terry, you got Terry doing a criminal investigation initially, right? It interests him. There's something curious about it. That's what makes a person investigate. But then you have a third factor. And the third factor is that David Berkowitz enters into all of this with different, talking about topic A, but from different angles, different stories, different versions of the same story. Alice Perry, Ted Bundy, or Mensner. Or
Well,
was he trying to find out what D Channel might have known and she'd come back and say, no, it was a guy called Mensner? But then again, why would he not tell D Channel?
yes.
Know
He's
it.
asking about Bundy and not Mensa.
Yeah, why doesn't he say to her, it was a man known as Manson 2?
Yes. Well, we know David's not the most honest person, don't we, Eric?
No. I think that he's almost like a kind of what the Muslims call a jinn, like a genie who plays games with you.
Well, Eric, Neo's joined us.
Hello, Neo. How are you?
What's going on?
Are you enjoying the show?
Yeah. Did you do that Ziegel guy?
That we're gonna have to save that for the future as a show on its own.
Because that's pretty amazing stuff.
That's amazing stuff, and we can do that show. We can do that show.
Yeah, I just got
because that
late. I didn't see
that topic there. I won't name the person again, but we'll advertise it. That topic there is interesting. There's a reason why Maury Terry went to that man, because there's a criminal case mentioned. This fella knew everything, and in a way, it shows where it's almost as if, well, we can get to it in the next show, as if it's like a carpet being weaved with different images. It's a totally different area, but I still believe that there's some type of fear in this letter that was found by Berkowitz. There's something very strange. He said, apparently you were led to believe she was dealing with them. And I'm saying, who led Terry to believe she was dealing with the Santa Clara police? Did she lead him to believe that, or somebody else?
I think, judging by all I've read today, and I've got a feeling David didn't want to send Maury on a wild goose chase. He knew Manson 2 was not involved.
He didn't want to send him on a wild goose chase?
No, I like I said to you earlier, Neo, I think that Maury was getting a lot of his information from other people. Dunleavy, Midica, Gilroy, D, the list is endless, Finney, all these people he was getting information from. And there's only 5 letters between David and Maury pre-1993.
Now, if there's only 5 letters between David and Maury, this sentence is curious. He says about D Channel, in fact, she never claimed to have any inside information about the case. Now, he's referring to the Alice Perry case. And she never told you anything about the supposed 4 cult victims. Now, it's almost as if he's being cryptic here, trying to give hints and playing with somebody. How does he know this from her? It gives support. Terry was not pretending, was not providing Lee further names if she is the informant. I don't providing, it's dark, providing Lifer. If she is the informant, he doesn't give her name to Lifer if she's the informant. So it's as if maybe D Channel.
Who else would it have been?
Right. Well,
Do you have anybody?
I
Do you have anybody else in mind
No.
who that letter would have been from?
I think
Nope.
it was in channel. And the reason why is because I said this letter is a letter of fright, concern, of something being uncovered, even personally about him, if you don't believe others were involved, because if D Channel must have told him she's in touch with Maury Terry, and that and there is this proximity with the district attorney's office because they got her name from his mailing list. So there's a concern here with Berkowitz. There's a concern.
Yeah, but in her letters, is she instigating him?
Instigating Berkowitz?
Yeah.
I don't see any instigation on
Like the Saulus Perry thing. Obviously, as you guys researched it, a lot of his information came from her with Saulus Perry, correct?
Wow.
Well,
Judge-
that's another thing. That's another thing.
Well, where would he get all that stuff from? He had to be sent it.
Well, he was a crime buff, but as
Right.
I said, he was a peculiar crime buff because he was a criminal. I mean, you never hear of criminals being crime buffs.
That was another reason a lot of this happened. He wasn't accepted by the fire police. Being a buff, he wanted to bother them.
Yeah.
Another reason why he went into the army, he couldn't get accepted by the police or fire. So he chose, the army, and he gets out and he chooses to mess with them because he's that much of a buff. That's where all those fires and all those, he called the police a lot more than is recorded. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. You see, I think that I wrote here in the notes, this could be possible that he's frightened because he says, please do not contact her again. He's saying to Terry about D, as she was only trying to help and not mislead you.
I do not get the impression that David is frightened by anything, Eric.
But you see, I can see that point. But what it is, Rena, is that I'm starting as if I know nothing based upon this letter. It's a very strange letter. What he's writing to Maury Terry, don't be involved, drop the matter. And then all of a sudden, they almost become each other's alter ego in the 1980s and 90s.
Yeah, because Berkowitz makes out off of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in prison and you're him, you don't got no morals after a while. It wears off. I mean, he's going to entertain his life as much as he can. Someone gives him $100, he's going to do what he's got to do to get her to him or her to give him $100 again.
See,
why not? He's in prison. It's all he can do. So
no, if we do go to, good point. But if we go to the fact that I find that,
and that's hard. Remember, he's in prison. Even if he wants to do the right thing, it's not easy when you're getting things. And if you just continue doing this, you can,
Right. But you see, this is the thing. Let's take, like, I'm a baby here with this letter. Let's say I find that there's some type of fear or concern. I wrote in the margin, I believe Berkowitz never imagined someone would look deeply into his case as Terry did.
Eric, we know that Don Levy took David's letter out of context with there's other sons out there, God help the world, etc. A lot of things David said was taken out of context.
When you read that, though, you're right. But when you read that, what are you thinking?
You're thinking creepiness, aren't you? If you haven't seen,
you're thinking that there's other people out there.
Yeah.
And of course, there are other people out there. They might not have been involved with David, but there are other. We know this from other crimes that I've, even one person who's tremendous with documents. We know other people are out there. There are these interconnections. You do find it, especially when you get into the area of pederasty and pedophilia, which is criminal. I mean, there's even been homicides, abductions, kidnappings, but this let's put it this way. Would David Berkowitz have wanted this to go forward? Well, I say yes. He decided to go forward with it because he continued the narrative.
He benefits from it. See, he can't stop still to this day. And again, I think he wants to do good, but he can't stop, Eric. He's still going.
How does he benefit from it, Neo? Let's say, how does he?
Attention, commissary money, letters.
Does he get money? Does he get money?
Sympathy, compassion. I'm sure he gets money if he had throughout all the years. I remember a story of him getting $10,000 from somebody, and he gave 1,000 to Nisa.
Well, I know that Thomas Morris had said that, let's say, when Geraldo interviews Manson, or all those people interview Manson, I think he gets paid. Do they pay him? Are they allowed to be paid in prison?
No.
You
No.
can put money in their commissary.
Yeah.
Not cash, though.
No, what does he can't use cash? He's in jail. You can only use
Well, yeah. Well, David was getting typewriters, crayons, coloring books, stuffed toys, sweets, whatever.
Well, yeah, whatever was sent to him. You know, that Nisa story about him giving her money, I read that somewhere. I didn't not reporting it myself. I read it somewhere of that happening. And again, he's probably been the most comfortable captive prisoner in America ever. I mean, his mail has been more than
outside of mafia dons. But
no, you think John Gotti got treated good? They killed him.
Well,
they killed him in prison. Okay, they wanted to kill him.
Well, they wanted to kill him because of his attempted murder, or I think he did. I was in Brooklyn. I was wondering why there was so much.
He didn't cooperate
with Paul Castellano.
He wasn't cooperating, Eric. So
yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, way different. This he's got mail up to his ceiling. Okay. I mean, he's got the Christian thing going on in there. I mean, he's pretty comfortable in there. He's been comfortable.
What is the date of the letter of Manson to Mensna? Did he write that to Terry? What you read from the chapter? I photocopied it, but I can't see it.
November of 79. Supposedly he wrote this to D Channel.
To D Channel. All right. In November of 1979, he wrote that to D Channel about Mensna.
Yeah. But in June of the same year, 79, he was asking her about Ted Bundy.
Yeah, almost a half a year before. Okay, yeah. But you see, is asking her about Ted Bundy necessarily a denial of what he believing the slayer is Mensna?
But if he knew in 1975 that William Mensah did this, why would he be asking D Channel 4 years later in 1979?
The reason why he would be asking her
makes no sense.
Well, it does make sense. It's not a denial. The reason he was tapping in to see what she would have to say, in my opinion, because he's in touch with this fellow Jerry, the law enforcement officer, who speaks openly about Ted Bundy being a suspect in the 3 murders.
But that wasn't public knowledge, Eric.
When was it made public?
It wasn't public knowledge that Ted Bundy was a suspect.
So then
I think it's serial killers in their own minds. We know that Ted Bundy was helping the feds with the Green River killer. Serial killers have been known to help the feds out.
Right, but he knows of this detective. He knows of this detective.
Who?
Berkowitz. He knows of Jerry, the full name, Jerry Thompson.
How does he know of Jerry, though?
I don't know, but he mentions
that's
him.
What I mean.
Through
Terry. You know, we don't see everything as in entirety to put these puzzle pieces together.
That's right. Does he know it from Terry, or does he know it from D Channel, or does he know it from somebody else?
And this leads us on to your timeline, Eric. You know, this ever-growing list of David flip-flopping and changing his mind.
And he controls it, though.
And he still does it. He still does it. Let me jump. He still does it. Let me take the phone conversation I had with Frank De Gennaro. I've mentioned this before. And Frank is a very congenial fellow, talks calmly. And to Frank, he tells him, I had to tell Michael Caparelli that I was the only one who did the shootings. I had to not basically deny that he was with others, but he still tells De Gennaro he was with others. And I asked him, what therefore does David believed, what do you believe? And they said, it's the ultimate evil. So David Berkowitz goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and he keeps changing the stories. And one would have to ask why. I mean, he even in the book with Caparelli decries Abrahamson. He puts down. He's very similar to somebody that I know, and the two of you might know, where somebody is patted on the back, embraced, but then when speaking to somebody else or elsewhere, that person is just trashed.
You know, you guys are talking about all these other people. Look what he was doing to Caparelli. Look what he was doing the same exact thing. When I ran into Caparelli, he had all of Maury's stuff to the point where I was scratching my head. So you see, and then you ask yourself, why is he lying again? Especially to Caparelli, when he accepted Caparelli to come in and speak to him, but he's telling him all these lies.
Well, you see,
Gajusek and Sahim and all this stuff that wasn't true.
Yeah.
So he's lying again there. So you see, he can't help it because that's how he gets his attention. He's in prison. He's not getting out. And he's going to continue to play people because that's the only entertainment it's the only TV he's got.
Yeah. And like I said, early, late 70s, he didn't really want anything to do with this. He didn't want to cooperate with the Queen's DA. He didn't want anything to do with the investigation. He really didn't want anything to do with Maury, judging by the lack of letters between them. It wasn't until 1993 when things really ramped up. He started appearing on TV programs. He was actively writing to Maury. And it seems like Maury didn't even really need David the period of time he was writing his book. He was getting sources from everybody else apart from David himself because he didn't need him. So
David probably seen he caught fire. He's getting a lot of attention, bestseller. He wants some of that.
He wanted a piece of the action.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were in prison, it's kind of hard to stay away from acting like that when you have nothing. Again, it's one of those positions I say you got to be in his position. I know he's not acting right, but you got to look at the situation. How are you supposed to act? We can't really talk because we're not in prison, but he's in prison and he's not getting out. So his actions are selfish at times because that's what it's going to be.
If you look at the Gilroy deposition, which I'm going to be starting very soon, in case anybody is wondering, David is basically saying, I did not know the cars. I'd never seen them apart from a few times in their back garden. I never went to Texas. I never saw John Carr's wife in Texas. He's basically not giving anything away. And by the end of it, he's like so fed up, he starts playing a little bit of mind games with him. But it seems like he wasn't really playing that many games early on. The mind games kind of started in the 90s. I think he thought people were going to forget about him, and he needed to remind people who he was.
Well, he also wrote that letter to Maury saying that no matter what you do, no one's going to believe you. You're forgetting about him leading him on.
Yeah, but the mind games begin before that. The mind games.
But he always left it open to play games.
He's doing mind games with Abrahamson. He's doing mind games with the Newsday reporter, where there is a contradiction what he's telling the Newsday reporter, as opposed to as opposed to Abrahamson. The mind games are there. They're just not that public until the ultimate evil comes out, because that becomes a literary phenomenon. And the time that when it did come out was coincided with the Satanic Panic.
And again, 93, he's giving you Berkowitz, right, to fit his narrative. He's not having Berkowitz and then coming up with his conclusion. He's got his conclusion already and then calls in Berkowitz after his book in 93 to help fill his narrative. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Again, with this, that's not how you do it. You can't have your conclusion and then go look for the people to fill it in. You got to look for the people, have them fill it in, and then get the conclusion. You see how his book is done? and then he's going to see him to have him confirm his stuff. And as you can see in a lot of his videos, he edits. I don't feel that the questions Berkowitz are answering him, or the direct questions that we think he's answering. You know what I mean?
Well, when you say the video, that which is edited, whose video?
When Maury sees Berkowitz, like he'll ask him something about the 22 disciples, a specific cult that Maury's talking about. But then when you see the answer from Berkowitz, he's talking about just a satanic cult in general. You know, he's talking about the big picture of it in America, in the cities and stuff. And he's not, to me, it doesn't sound like he's directly answering to his cult that he's speaking of.
Well, you know, I think he's answering in regards to the Wicker Street gang, don't you?
I don't think in that interview, no. Because I think he was trying to play along with Maury somewhat, but
well, I think
he wasn't directly saying there was a certain group, but he was sort of saying about the satanic stuff that was going around at that time, because it was around, wasn't it? I mean,
it was vastly around,
right?
I mean, it was all over the place. It was all over the place.
Well,
and that's a fact. It's still
Eric. I think when David's answering these questions to Maury and he's saying, "I didn't pull the trigger at every single one of them." Well, we know that David was saying that he was being instructed to do this by the demons. In David's mind, he's thinking, it's not really me doing this. It's the demons doing it through me.
But so then he denies it. He denies the demons, even in the late 70s, to the New York Times reporter. He denies the demons, and then he comes back with Dr. Caparelli in his book saying, and they go into the discussion of demon possession.
I think he was playing word games, Eric. I think in his mind it was the demons and the Wicker Street gang that was controlling him through you know, to do these crimes.
If I wanted to be severe, I would have to be the way the church was at one time. You want to prove that there's demon possession, you have to have an authentic priest or religious who deals with this. He's saying it's demons. I mean, the acts are figuratively demonic, what he did, if he was with others. Look, I got here the printout from Howie Edelson, what Howie Edelson wrote to me. Now, Maury Terry is not there. It's just Carl Denaro. I think he went with a young lady called Trish. And Edelson was a witness. He wrote to me after I did the timeline, and he said, I was present at Carl and Berkowitz's November 2021 meeting, and despite Carl's best efforts, David Berkowitz offered zero names as to whom his accomplices were, or the name of the actual shooter. Berkowitz absolutely did confirm that A, the shooter was not him, and B, he witnessed the attack, and C, the shooter was female. That's all. So Edelson is witness to what he stated to Carl Denaro.
That was the first time Carl had went in.
Yeah.
From when I was privy to all this, it was, I think, 2021.
One thing is to tell Dr. Caparelli, originally there was a kind of paradigm shift. That's how Dr. Caparelli stated it. There was a paradigm shift, and David had to tell the truth. It was like, I'm not being sarcastic now, it was like the law to come, and I have to tell the truth. I'm the only one who did it. But then you have the De Gennaro explanation to me. So it continues to go back and forth, and we see that with Berkowitz. Now, when Rena and I did that show, Caparelli said, you came up with a lot of good points, Eric, but he said, he says to me, well, I'm just giving you the gist. And he says, he says, but he said that I said a couple of things that were not factual about him in the book, and he wanted to straighten it out with me. Now, I had been told, I mean, I can't deny what he's telling me, right? But I had been told that the book originally was going to be a manuscript published, where David Berkowitz states, I did the murders. I did all the murders with others. I wasn't always alone. And then I was led to believe, not maliciously, that when Caparelli went back up with Carl Denaro, 4 hours more of audio tape interviews. I don't know if Carl was there for the 4 hours. And right in front of Carl, he denies, I'm the only one who shot you, after he's telling Carl several times, or definitely that November with Adelson present as witness, it was the girl who shot you. And that was a story that existed for years and years. But here he is personally being told that he was not the shooter, but he was present.
Right.
So so Caparelli goes on. I'm just picking up. He tells me that he didn't write the book to conclude that David Berkowitz did the shootings with other cult members, and then change it at some point during the case study.
He really wasn't into that.
What?
He really wasn't into the case. He didn't know much about the case when I ran into him.
Yeah. Well,
he wasn't into the accomplices.
I tell you, after I received the audio tape from him, it was a gentleman's tape. He sent it at about 7:07 in the morning, soon after the show. Somebody supplied him with the show, and it was about 7:07 in the morning. I got it later in the morning, and then when he took a break from teaching, we had a visual call. He didn't even know who D Channel was.
He didn't know a lot about the case. I showed him a lot of stuff.
His whole point was David contacted him. It was about basically, I'll sum it up in my own words, Christian healing.
Yeah, he went at a different angle. It was definitely a different angle and good angle. He didn't come from the same angle as I was, and we realized that. I was doing the accomplice thing, and he was doing David. So you see in his book too, he doesn't have too much of accomplice stuff in there. When I met him, he was totally believing in the Maury stuff, that David was telling him the truth. And he was asking me, well, if I have the same thing as Maury, then, what do you think? And like I said, I was already done, and I had all my stuff, and he had me questioning myself until I pulled it back and said, I'm not stepping back. So I called him, and I had told him to do me a favor if he could take Carl in to see Berkowitz. And he said, yeah, I can do that. Let me ask him. So, like I said, we went and met Carl. Carl didn't know. It was like a surprise in a sense. And we set it up, and Carl agreed to go in with him. And I don't think that he gets the confession without Carl going in.
Right.
See, I bridged that. Again, now I step out of the way. My job's done. Without Carl, okay? Without Carl agreeing to go in there is no confession.
Well, this is interesting. Here's what Caparelli, I'm giving you the gist, says to me. Of course, Carl is a tortured individual. He has to be used as the fish bait. I feel sorry for him. He's told that it was the woman who shot you and tried to kill, Keenan was psycho-emotionally affected. She wasn't hit by bullets. And her sister, Joan Smith Keenan, said the family's looking for closure, because you just don't walk away from something like that and say, well, I wasn't hit with a bullet. It's a nightmare, other than the fact, that she was followed during the day and it concerned her. But Caparelli said to me that there were four shadows as they spoke about the crimes, because it was basically a psychological spiritual discussion from the time he was in his mother's womb, as he tells me. That's his behavioral psychology, all the way up the gradual progression that takes place. It was but what he write. This is what I jotted down. It's not like, well, I wrote the book. David did the shootings with other shooters. It was a collectivity of people. And then David says to Caparelli, I lied. It was me alone. So Caparelli said to me, he didn't lie to me. He never lied to me. Now, he then goes on referring to Carl, the reason why he might be saying it that way to you is because I believed up until the point where David confessed that he was part of the cult and it was multiple shooters. So he did believe there was a cult, Caparelli.
Right.
And then
let me straighten this out too.
Right. But
I'm not saying, Eric, I'm not saying that I completely changed Caparelli. I definitely helped him out. I showed him the case. I brought him to Wicker. He didn't know about the Nettos. He didn't know about the dog stuff, the real story. I definitely helped him out, but I'm not going to take away from him his talking to Berkowitz. I can't say that his talking to Berkowitz didn't help him confess. I don't know that, but I definitely helped him out with being able to approach David in the right way. And I told him David was lying to him. And again, also, I did help him, but I would have to give more credit to the Jack Jones tapes at the time. The Jack Jones tapes were being played at the time when I met Caparelli, and we were kind of listening to him, together, not together, but I was listening to it. He was listening, when he put it out, and he was listening to that also, getting the truth. So yeah, I helped him. But it was a variety of things that helped Caparelli.
Yeah,
it's just his work. Okay, I'll take credit for the things that I did, but not going to take the credit away from him. His work.
He didn't know everything because, as he states to me, he's an honest chap with me. He said, it's not as if he knew the case like others, and they say, I want to get involved. I read the book. He said that he learned about it. He ended up watching the Maury Terry documentary. That would be Joshua Zeman, and then an Inside Edition interview. Now, the one thing that might be wrong is that it's not, Carl did tell me, but he wants to make a point that Carl might have seen in him a shift in opinion and interpreted that shift in opinion as a shift in the manuscript. Well, I never said that Carl saw a shift in the manuscript. I said there was a shift because of how it had been explained to me, that it was in the galleys in April of 2023 to be published in June of 2023. And then David changes his story, says, well, I have to tell the truth if it is the truth. And the book instead is released in October because certain parts of the manuscript had changed. That's how it got to me. David states to him, he quotes David, when he got to the crime, saying it was a new disclosure, it wasn't a contradiction of what was previously stated. David states, I got to just come clean now. There's been a lie circulating for too long. I've been in denial. Here's the truth. I did it. So that's how that unfolded. Different from the way I reported it. Well, he knew I wasn't lying, Caparelli. I just got information. But you see, David knows what he's doing, because there's no reason for Frank DeGennaro to be lying to me over the phone. We spoke for a long time. And after David says that to Caparelli, he goes and tells DeGennaro, I had to do it to protect those on the outside who could get hurt if I stated I was with a cult, a collectivity.
Well, it's a bit late for that. He's been talking for years.
And the moral of the story is stay away from him. Why are you talking to him? You're not going to get anything out of him. You have everything you need. There's nothing else you need to talk to him about. He's just going to continue the nonsense.
Yeah. So the whole point is that Carl did not want what David told him in the book. So Caparelli, a very good man, says, but at the end of the day, I realized that Carl was right. I respect him. It's his story to tell. Could I have published the encounter with Carl and David? I could have, but Carl is correct. It's his story to tell.
Right. That's why, I have it in my book, but I try to lay off it as much as possible. Just
Yeah. He feels it would be crossing the moral line ethically to report a story when he was telling me, he was telling him, please don't, don't say anything. I don't want this out. And that's a bit of the correction. He states that he did have to go back and tweak certain things in the book, and he said that he originally wrote the chapter. I was under the assumption that David did the shootings with other people, so he had to go back and fix things. And he says, I don't think I ever actually said originally that David was part of a collectivity. But I might have used language that hinted towards that because that was my assumption. But that was purely an assumption. That wasn't because David lied to me. And, and I have questions. I believe what he's telling me. I have no right to say he's not telling me anything. But what this brings out, Rena, does this not sound just the same as the different stories and questions and everything with D Channel about Mensah and Bundy? Isn't it the same type of thing, going back and forth, the same topic but different, but relating it to different people, giving a different story to various people? It's the same type of mind.
Problem is, we don't know what Dee was telling Maury, do we?
No. But we do know what David was telling Frank De Gennaro and Caparelli.
But this is so many years later.
Yes, that's it. That's why I called it a timeline with the other things I had written. It's just a short timeline. I haven't been detailed. It's just something I spontaneously wrote. And then all of a sudden, because I wrote this, one person says, that I was doing this just to satisfy new people I'm working with, and things like that. I named a source who had told me something, and that source was you, Neo. I didn't name you at the time, but you've gone public on all of that. Why in 1993, he tells Jack Jones he's alone in 1980. But in 1993, he publicly announces to the press he didn't do all the homicides alone. What does he gain from that? Is it all in his mind or what?
He gains what Maury got. Look what Maury has: bestseller, attention over all his stuff, and he wants some, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's just, and I still maintain that when he was interviewed by Maurice Dubois, that's the only time that he's interviewed that I know of where he neither says yes or no. That's the only interview I know of in print or film. And if there are others, please give them to me. I'm not saying this is the gospel truth, but it's the only one that I know, my relative knowledge, where David Berkowitz neither says, yes, I was alone, no, I wasn't alone. And I think that question is asked twice by Maurice Dubois. That was one of the two films for the 44th anniversary of this case. So it's just,
I think David laid the foundation for Maury. And by the end, Maury just didn't really need David because he had so many other people helping him, didn't he?
I think the opposite. I mean, I blame David for playing along, but Maury laid the foundation because of the information he was getting, putting it in the paper, and then David knew what to play along with by the time he got to him and they were talking because he was reading his papers. And again, I'm not saying Maury did it lying or on purpose, but he's getting this information that this guy might have accomplices. And you see it here with that Ziegel guy, bringing him into the process zone of things, so.
And then he encounters Ed Sanders, who does have excellent research. tons of documents. And when he encounters Ed Sanders, that only gives support of the Process Church.
All of these people are supporting him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then and even after death, he's being supported because he tells Caparelli. Caparelli's book is interesting when you get to the occult and everything. I mean, I want to reread it. When you get to Caparelli, he tells Caparelli that the Process Church of the Final Judgment was created originally, the Process Church, and the word process, the newer English pronunciation. We in America have modern English elder pronunciations, process, but de Grimston wanted it also in America to always be said process instead of process. That's just a little linguistic thing, but it's interesting. They were created, according to David Berkowitz, to cause mayhem and chaos. Words to that effect. I don't have the book here. So it's as if David Berkowitz is protracting everything that was eventually said by Terry, and maybe, I don't know how aware he is of Peter Lavender, although Lavender is honest when he said to me, how much of what I think I know are only innuendos.
Well, I think David had a very strange relationship with D Channel. As we read in that letter, he wrote to Abrahamson, D Channel and her husband were true crime buffs, which we have David, also a self-confessed true crime buff. We know that Dee was sending David a lot of articles, feeding him a lot of information on the occult. And I think later on down the line, he was also feeding that to Maury. And Maury was trying to tie everything together. And it just ended up being one big jumbled mess of misinformation. And we know that Manson too, Eric, only killed 2 people. He was involved in the Roy Raiden murder, and he also killed a woman. But there's no evidence of him ever belonging to a cult or anything.
Right. So, in other words, we don't know if he was or not, but we don't have the evidence. But the fact that the Roy Raiden murder comes up, how that gets into the ultimate evil is because of Berkowitz stating that Mensner stated that he murdered Alice Perry at an occult meeting. I don't know what type of occult meeting it is. Who would stand up and say, I murdered so-and-so?
Wasn't he crushed or something when the Roy Raiden stuff came through and it wasn't?
Yeah.
Right, because he had it in his book, right? Now he's getting the right information on it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That'll kill it.
Katrina said he was devastated to find out that it was
because he already got right.
And it really deeply affected Maury, finding out that this was no,
because it ruins his book. No,
and we know the Roy Raiden stuff came from Vinny. Okay. Vinny.
But Maury did go out. There was Ted Lee Gunderson, the FBI special agent whom I knew. He was out there looking where Raiden's body was found with his wife and Gunderson.
Yeah, and didn't he find a piece of evidence that wasn't found prior?
Wasn't there a Bible?
That's almost impossible. Do you understand why they do at a murder scene? Come on.
Yeah, I don't think they would have left the Bible there, do you?
No, they scope the area and try and get any kind of evidence at all.
According to the way it should be done, if life was perfect, like Perry Mason and Lieutenant Columbo, they would have found the Bible.
Well, now knowing how this game is played by Maury, do you really think he found a Bible at the murder scene of his falsely accused?
I think it's quite possible because there's a lot of sloppiness and stupidity.
Well, we know now that it's all bullshit, right? And he was even upset about it. So,
but wait, where was it proven, Neo? Because I never came across that. I'd like to know.
Oh, it's not proven if they missed. Is that what you're saying, that they missed the Bible and he was the one to find it when he went back?
Yeah. I mean, how is it?
I can't prove that they missed it. I can't prove he placed it. But again, you want to look at the work here, and that Roy Radin is completely not involved in this. And it's just funny. He finds a Bible at the murder scene and
open to the page where he wanted, a relevant passage
and it's
relating
like a lot
to
of the other
illegal
stuff that we
activity.
see,
Anything is possible. I leave myself open. Because
again, I'm gonna you say the police could have screwed up. I'm gonna go with more they couldn't have. I mean, you got a murder scene. They're scoping out the whole area. They need to find evidence down to a hair.
But that's
them misplacing seeing a Bible. I mean, I don't know, man.
But that's the way it should be.
Because it could have had fingerprints.
They screw up with. Look at how many cold cases.
But I'm going to stay positive and say they did their job. I'm not going to say, I understand you're saying that's how it should be, but you're automatically assuming the cops don't do their job. I'm going to automatically assume that they do their job.
I'm going to say many times they don't do it properly. They work according to routine.
That's with any work, period. And any sometimes with people, I mean, you got good cops, you got bad cops. But again, I'm not going to speculate. He said he found it. But again, look at the prior work that we're looking at. And it's not a coincidence he finds a Bible at the murder scene.
Oh, there's Richie Lewis. But, I wanted to go back to Ginger Nichols. Ginger Nichols might have a point that David Berkowitz didn't know a thing about the Arliss Perry murder.
I don't think he knew anything. Well, how would he know anything? How would he know anything?
See, one of the problems we have is that too many people don't speak up. They keep their cards tight to their chest. That's one of the main problems we have. The people who are out for blood money, selling D-channel letters and won't release them, it's immoral to be selling things like that.
I am under no doubt that Maury Terry was manipulating a lot of documents, a lot of information. Everything to this day is practically being debunked.
Well, that is your free will to say that.
I see that later on with him.
But
I don't see it in the beginning.
We've got to, in the beginning, no, definitely not. But we've got to be exact. This, I mean, you're going to be doing a show on Gilroy, is it? Not Guilfoyle. Gilroy?
Gilroy, yeah.
The lawyer. Okay. Now, I was just thinking before I came in, when we paused for a bit, you and I, before the show, that if Maury Terry did edit and cobble together, like an actor who cobbles some Shakespeare passages together, and you don't have the other actors, right? The other personages in between the monologues. If Terry did that, there's no difference than when, in a way, and I'm severe on this, and I've worked on a moviola, cutting film and putting it together, changing scenes. I did it only twice, but interesting experience. If let's put it this way, people say, well, look, there's Wheat Carr. Did you hear what she said in that film? Did you hear that? Well, Wheat Carr, as I think she wrote to me, and it's not, I'd have to go over the correspondence or to others. She said they interviewed me for 9 hours, and we get practically 30 seconds of her. I want the full 9 hours. If I'm going to seriously investigate those filmmakers for that 1977 film on Investigation Discovery, 9 hours she's interviewed. Do you know how rich 9 hours are? Or as Paul Hart had informed me about the over 300 minutes of the Jack Jones tapes. Okay, they give us a good show with the killer tapes, but it's a show. It's like a Hollywood film where you edit everything you've shot to make the film complete with a purpose. I want to hear all the tapes. I want to hear everything. I mean, we do want that. You should want that. You should.
Well, regarding the Jack Jones tape yet again, Eric, I've said it before, I'll say it again. listening week in, week out to those tapes, and there was never any sign of accomplices. And that's when my mind started to change by listening to those tapes.
Oh, I don't doubt that you
And I
heard.
think Neo can agree with me here. Even
Yeah.
though he'd already made his mind up at this point, they were just,
But you see, I don't doubt that you say there are no accomplices mentioned. I want everything that says that. Even I'm not saying that maybe in the other hundreds of minutes, David Berkowitz suddenly says, I had accomplices, but then on certain areas you see where he doesn't have accomplices. I mean, those tapes are in the spring of 1980, right? Now, in the spring of 1980, he's writing to other people. And even just before Jack Jones, in the chapters, I can't even read them. I didn't realize it'd be so dark. In the chapters the 3 chapters that have to do with D Channel, he's even speaking of someplace, a collectivity of people. And that's just less than a year away from what he'll be telling Jack Jones. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but look who he's talking to. It depends who he's talking to. When he's talking to law enforcement and Jack Jones and Abrams and serious people that are serious, he's speaking differently. When you got people going in through Maury or entertaining nonsense, and you can see there's a lot of interviews where they keep pushing him. He tells them no, and they keep pushing him to go in the direction they want him to. So he's like, all right, fine. You guys going to keep it up? So it's, again.
All right. Now, here's what Joe Colachito says. I don't mind your opinion, Joe, but I want you to prove it. I'm not interested just in opinions. I want you to prove it.
Joe says multiple police miss it over the course of hours and days, but here comes Maury, and he.
But Eric, when
no fucking way.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go.
Okay, those are your opinions, but we can't say it's not true or it's an absolute lie. It has to be proven.
But when does his prior work come into effect? When does the credibility of this guy's work come into play?
Well, the credibility, definitely, without the polemics and the controversies, right? That is just what you said in the beginning.
When you have a whole bunch of his stuff not adding up, and then you have the story of him finding a Bible, and then you find out that story of that murder doesn't add up. When does his credibility come? When do you just say, yeah, he probably did find the Bible because his prior work is like this?
Yeah, I'm afraid.
I can't answer that for now, but you see, I'm not discarding what.
Like if you had to put your money on this, you got 2 choices.
Mm-hmm.
Put your money on it. What are you putting your money on? That Maury placed the Bible and found it, or the police missed it? What are you putting your money on? It? Maury found it?
Well, because he's not here to defend himself.
No, Eric, you got to put your money on one. You got to put your money on one. It's for $1 million. You want to win $1 million. Where are you putting your money? That Maury bullshitted this story or not? Right.
I'm going to put it with the police.
You're going to risk $1 million after the work we've seen him put through. And you're going to say, right. See, you're laughing when it's put like that. You want that $1 million, right? So you're going to put it on what you think is the best answer for that $1 million. And you have to go with Maury planted the Bible. And that's because of the prior work, his credibility. I mean, hey, really answer the question honestly. $1 million, where are you putting it?
I'm not dishonest.
$1 million. Where you really going to put it that the cops missed it and the cops missed it for $1 million?
I think Maury was getting desperate.
I'm putting it on that he placed the Bible just because of the prior work, and I think my bet would I'm $1 million richer. I think.
But is his wife guilty then? She was there.
Well, he probably had it up his shirt, Eric.
I don't know. How was he with her? Again, we don't know their relationship really.
See, this is the thing that I would want. this is the thing that I would want with Terry. See, I'm not one-dimensional. I would say to Mr. Terry, okay, let's do a forensics examination of this Bible to see how long we can prove it's been out there. The element.
Again, was the Bible brought to the police after for fingerprints?
That's right. That's what I want.
Was it? Why not, Eric?
I never read that. He just tells us.
Well, I mean, first of all, if you did find it and you really are into this case, you call the police.
Mm-hmm.
That's evidence. That's not supposed to be touched.
That's exactly what I would do.
But he didn't do that.
Because I also know, let's say Ted Lee Gunderson, now he's passed away. I spoke with him at times, but I do know that Rothstein was dubious about the guy after he retired, about Gunderson. And, you know, I mean, I would say I would have to be severe with Terry, to be honest, and say, okay, so you found this Bible. Let's do a forensics examination. The elements, they can tell how long it's been there. And all
I
that.
think Maury took it home. I think Maury took it home.
Unless somebody was there recently and dropped the Bible off.
I think Maury Terry probably had it buried in his backyard.
You could argue that, Eric.
What?
You could argue that. I ain't got no counter for that. If you're telling me somebody
could have dropped the Bible there, but I you know, I mean, I know that perhaps I know if Hank Chinotti was going through this, he might doubt it also, because he doubts that. It's very strange with Hank. It's there's a ambiguity there. He says he finds it far-fetched that the people Berkowitz was with was some type of satanic cult. But then he goes on about Satan and everything, you know, but there's a peculiar case there. But I'm wondering what he would have said as a top homicide detective. You know, I just don't know. I don't know. You know, that I asked my wife, do you think he could have found the Bible? And she said yes. And because I did have a question about it. It's in the book. That portion is read.
Good point, Max.
Oh, well, wait. I was thinking of that, Max. I'm going to give you an answer soon. You know.
But Max, I mean, you can't.
Why would somebody?
He's got you there, though. If someone placed it there, I mean.
Yeah. Wait, Max. Max, listen to this.
I still think he did it, but
your logic is very good, Max. But listen to me. What if there were people? There are people who go and do ceremonies, who believe in Satan and dark things, and they do ceremonies where heinous crimes have been committed. So what if people who believed in Satan actually placed a Bible there? There was something ritualistic. Where somebody has been murdered. What if they did that?
Eric, you win. You know, I can't counter that, but I still will put my money on it. But I mean, if we were arguing, I can't prove it, and you can go with that, because that could have happened. But again, I mean, how could I?
No, Joe,
I can prove.
Joe, I think Gunderson was with him. I think private.
I don't know about that.
Well,
was it?
Well, wait here.
I thought it was just Georgina and Maury.
I thought it was, but I'll pull up the book. I'll pull the book up. I have it up.
Exactly, Neo. So many inconsistencies in Maury's work. Prove he didn't find it. Prove to me he didn't plant it there. Who was with him? Only his wife.
Right. See what he's saying? You know, that's what it becomes. You know, his credibility now, I feel it's no longer I have to prove him right or wrong. He's got to prove it back.
Remember,
you know,
but the difficulty
you got to prove that he wasn't wrong at this point. Okay, because I've done enough proving him wrong. You got to prove that he wasn't wrong at this point. That's where I'm saying credentials should fall now on him for his past work.
All that and the Cotton Club still flopped. Not a great movie. And he lost his life over that movie. Roy Raiden lost his life over that movie, essentially.
Well, that whole thing is a sordid affair because, you know, if you start going deep into Roy Raiden, then you get to Sisman and Platzman and their murder and the story that Mapplethorpe went to see Jesse Michael Turner in jail to retrieve the snuff films. And instead of roughing them up, they were murdered.
Max says the Bible at the scene makes sense if Mensa was a raging Satanist. There's zero evidence of that. And he personally refuted Maury and was working on a lawsuit at the time of his death. I didn't know that, Max. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that guy was supposed to be the guy at the Moskowitz shooting.
Yes. And he's
because they had like a profile that kind of fit the sketch or something.
Someone did place it there. Maury. Yeah, I'm with you there, Max. Maury probably had it buried in his back garden for a little while, and then when it was time to go out there, he threw a bit of dirt on it. You know, it was literally in the middle of nowhere. It was like in a canyon or something, wasn't it? And how would the Bible have stayed open to that exact page, Eric? How would it have stayed in that position for them to find it with that page referenced?
Well,
you know, the wind blowing and
I've got a garage since the time of the flood, and when the door is finally opened, there'll be books that remain open like that from the elements.
Richie Lewis, we've got another comment from Richie here. Mensa has to be wondering what the fuck. Yeah, he was a hired killer, but now he's a Zodiac son of Sam and probably the Unabomber if he wasn't caught. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Big game this weekend, Rich. Big game. You got the Packers. Let's see if the Bears can pull this off. They're underdog, playing away. I'm with you, though. Screw the Packers. Let's go, Bears.
Bears all the way.
Bears all the way. Chicago.
He says, fuck Green Bay.
I'm with you, Rich.
We got another
Jordan
comment.
Love don't show up.
Lol Mensa caught a real deal. Contract killer is now knocked off, ruined and tortured Arliss. I mean,
a lot of people in this story. It's crazy, no? So many people you can go through like Mensa.
And it's like I said a minute ago, a lot of the ultimate evil has been debunked. And Maury Terry's files have been out for some time now. And nobody has like found the smoking gun, have they?
I've read through every single page of everything. There's nothing. There's nothing connecting anything. I would have put it out.
Where's all the shows on all the, you know, the great finds in there? Why is no one coming up with anything?
There's actually a lot of stuff in there showing you he screwed up a lot of stuff, but it's being ignored. I don't know why. And then, you know, the people who are researching, doing the work, and showing you what's right is getting hate. It's crazy. I mean, you don't want to see what's right. Don't look, because I'm not favoring anything, and neither is a lot of people with this case. If you look at it, it is what it is. And that's it. It's that simple.
Max, do you know if they ever found out who killed Ron Sisman? I can never remember if that case is. I think that case is still unsolved to this day.
It is unsolved.
Elizabeth Platzman and Ron Sisman.
You know, also, you know, you talk about all the stuff that Berkowitz did, and we seem to forget what he did to Nisa. Again, just another one like this. You know, we didn't bring that up during this program. I mean, look what he did to her. You got him saying it to Zano, okay, to the point where Zano leaves visiting him. What do you want Zano to do? Just like Carl. This guy is telling them he didn't do the shootings. What do you want them to do? It's going to do nothing but cause confusion and have them looking for answers, just like Nisa. You know? The Nisa thing was messed up. Look at what he does. Look at the big picture of what he does to these. He burned Nisa again. he took her daughter away from her, and then he played with her. Look at the end effect of that. When you look at the big picture of that, look what he's doing. Like even the Arliss thing, he's playing. Don't you want to help find the killer? But he's over there leading people the wrong way too with his nonsense. Then Maury's doing this and that. I mean, what about finding the real killer to these things? What about finding the real things to these things? And you got people sending you the wrong way.
Good point, Neo. Yeah. He's deflecting from the real perpetrators out there.
Right.
And also, people say don't talk about, Maury can't defend himself. I will also go back to the point where neither could John and Michael Carr defend themselves because they were dead.
Well, the Bible was sunk 2 inches into the sandy soil. And he's there this time with Ted Lee Gunderson and a fellow called Duffy, who I think was a law enforcement officer out there in Los Angeles.
So stop right there 1 second. He's with law enforcement when he finds this Bible?
Yeah.
And they didn't take it? They let him take it?
Well, I don't know what happened.
I mean, you're right. It should have been brought in for fingerprints or whatever.
Everything.
But now you're saying it was 2 inches into the ground?
Yeah, it was
Bible paper
near the base of the tangled shrub, about 8 feet in from the outer branches. It had sunk about 2 inches into the sandy soil, apparently the result of a wash. And it was deliberately folded open, bent at the spine, so that its left-hand pages were beneath those on the right, to ensure that it remained open to the intended passage. The front cover and the first few hundred pages had been torn off. And he saw chapter 22, Isaiah, and he was nervous. He began to read it. It sounded like a description of Raden's Death Canyon.
So it just happened to be turned to that page, and it had been there for weeks, or how long?
Now, somebody came with a camera.
Yeah.
I was staring at the face of homicidal madness. Ted, G, his wife, Bob, somebody get the hell over here with that goddamn camera, quick. So where are the photos?
Well, I was watching Josh Seaman's documentary again for like the 30th time again yesterday, and there is a picture of the Bible in the documentary, covered in sticks and dirt and ripped pages, and it's battered about. And either they took the picture at the scene, or Maury took it home. Whatever happened to that Bible? Maybe Josh knows.
Gunderson calls the cops the fucking cops.
So was Gunderson there?
Yeah, the second time. The first time when he went along with his wife, but then Gunderson had to come back. He came back from where he had to fly out from Las Vegas. And Gunderson states fucking cops can't even do a thorough crime scene search. And he says, yeah, but we all missed it too, Ted. We were about to leave now, and G and I were here on Monday and missed it. I just didn't want to grope through all that stuff. And I'm sure.
Right, Rich. Rich is right. I agree. That's where I agree. He thought John Carr was involved till he died.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
For whatever reason.
Well, he just thought he couldn't close it off. That's it. He just was set with John Carr was involved, and I think he died thinking that.
Maury basically devoted his life to this case. And
he devoted his life to try and make his case right. That's where, again, I want to point out, you got to get evidence.
Wait, look what he's
conclusion. You can't have a conclusion and fit the evidence, because you're going to wild.
Yeah, but look what he says here, though. He said, I'd kept the Bible, wanting to run some tests on it in New York before sending it to the LA police. But red blotches we thought might be bloodstains would turn out to be a dye, perhaps from a flower.
What?
So it was there for some time. The flower called, I mean, he didn't say, "Hey, look, we found blood."
Again, why isn't that tested to see what it is? They just assume it's not blood and it's a flower. Okay, let's just take the book and bring it home. It doesn't make any sense, Eric. If you're seeing something on it, test it. Tell yourself. Don't tell yourself it's a flower. Show yourself it's a flower.
No, he says perhaps from a flower.
Eric, you get that book and there's a red stain on it, and perhaps it's blood or a flower.
That's right. Well,
Right.
the way my mind works, I wanted everything to be analyzed.
Yeah, it should be. Why isn't it analyzed? Since when do you have police officers getting a hold of evidence and not taking it from a civilian to bring it in for testing?
I was reading the letters between David and Maury earlier. And you know the whole story where David tells Maury, my apartment was set up to look like the lair of a madman a few days before I was arrested. Well, he also goes on to state that I moved some pieces of furniture from my apartment. He didn't say we moved some pieces of furniture from my apartment. In The Ultimate Evil and other documents, you have basically a couple of people helping Dave move this furniture out. But David says to Maury, I moved some furniture out. I scrolled the letters on the wall. It's all I, never we.
Well, there could be a difference between, there's a difference. I scrolled the letters on the wall. That is him. But one could say, yeah, well, hey, Eric, what happened to the furniture in the parlor?
Yeah, but if he's helping Maury, Eric, why wouldn't he say we moved the furniture out?
Well, you're not letting me finish. Okay? If I say I wrote the letters on the wall, that's me alone. But if you say I had furniture removed from my dining room, I moved the furniture out of my dining room. Did you do it alone? No, I had some people help me.
He never said that, though. He just says, I moved some furniture out.
There's never a we.
No, there's never a we. In his Breslin letter and the Brelly letter, it's all I. Never we.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean when you're talking about moving furniture or were you alone? He says, no, I had my buddy help me move the furniture out. You see what I mean? That's how
But surely if David was helping Maury, he'd be telling him this stuff, Eric.
Maybe not.
It's like David was telling Maury this stuff, and he was just weaving stories around stuff David was telling him.
Look, if I was interviewing Berkowitz, I would have said, did you move the furniture all alone? Or what? You mean you moved it all alone? You didn't have help? That's what I would have asked. That's my questioning.
Joe Galati wrote something there. I guess he settled that. I thought it was too his wife he's with, because I think I remember in the documentary that's how it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he found the Bible just with his wife. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Right. So there was no law enforcement there.
No, but I got the book right here, what he wrote.
Maybe that's another time they went back. I don't know.
Yeah. You just said they went back. He went back a second time.
He went back a second time with Gunderson and the fella.
Yeah, but the first time was just with Georgina.
Right, and he doesn't find the Bible the first time.
Richie says, hey, quick question. You guys might have answered this already, but in The Ultimate Evil, it says Berkey had a friend over not long before the arrest, and the apartment looked neat. Was this ever identified?
What do you mean, was this person ever identified?
The person in the apartment, I think he's saying.
Yeah, I think there was, in the beginning of the research in 2021, there was somebody that came forward and said they were in his apartment and it was neat. Some friend of his, some female friend of his.
Well, we know his car wasn't neat. I mean.
Well, that was at the end, too. You only see his car really at the end. Well, who knows how it was the whole time, but.
Whose car?
It's like David's car. The Ford Galaxy. You see the crime scene pictures.
Yeah.
His
Which
apartment was a mess. His car was a mess. Was that David's mess, or was it the feds looking through the apartment and the car that made the mess?
Mhm.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know?
I think he gave up.
or was the apartment neat? And have you ever turned a table over or thrown things all around from one moment to the next?
Yeah, like I say, maybe the police made the mess, searching for stuff.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. Don't
Again, I don't think so. I think what this guy was going through, that room looked exactly how it should have.
and that's
I
possible.
mean, are we forgetting this guy's going nuts, killing people in a room he can't stand to be in?
And this is why I don't think moving furniture out of his apartment at the time was top of his priority list. Do you?
What
Why would he?
furniture and why?
But why would his stereo stay there, Neo? But he would get rid of a random bureau, you know? Or
Why is he getting rid of furniture? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, it makes no sense. The guy is days away from being arrested.
Well, it makes sense when Maury's trying to tell you that it was a setup. The apartment didn't look like that. It was clean a couple days before. That's a complete lie. As you can see in all the police reports, no fireman was in there. No police got in there. It's all documented. Everything is documented from before Craig's fire.
Maybe he hopped the furniture.
Well, Eric, I mean, come on. The guy's got sense enough to move some furniture out, but yeah, he keeps the gun that ties him to these cases.
Okay, but what happens then to the furniture?
Yeah, but why would you get rid of furniture but not get rid of your weapons tied to the crimes? I mean, if there'd have been no gun there, how would they have tied him?
It doesn't make sense. Like I said, the story is all just made to look like he was, setting things up.
Wait.
That wasn't happening. So he wasn't moving furniture. That was the reason. There is no reason.
Let me just put forth this question as if I know nothing. Furniture was removed or not?
No.
It was removed. Okay.
No.
No, David told
he
Maury.
does say, he put the hole in the wall several days before the arrest. But a lot of things happened to him. Okay. And we have the neighbor claiming when she heard the smash into the wall and the next day she's seen the crack. And that was during the heat wave. Yeah. Because we figured that out because the air condition where she slept that night and the date. And we just figured that out. It was about 3-4 weeks before he got arrested.
Yeah, it was the 18th of July.
Oh, that was the blackout. I was working as a security guard, the Spartan Security Agency at Braniff, the Texas airline at John Fitzgerald Kennedy Airport. I had to stay the whole night until the morning for that.
New York didn't need that, especially with this guy doing what he was doing. Mm-hmm. When the blackout happens.
Oh, there were tons of crimes.
Yeah, but this guy was really, I mean, I've talked to so many people that lived through that still to this day. It's crazy how many people this guy affected. Down to law enforcement. If you look in his ego, he was really affected by what this guy was doing because he was spending his time trying to track him down. And the time he was spending doing this was away from his family. And his wife had died during this. Mm-hmm. So he had affected a lot of people that people don't even know. And, Zito was definitely one of them.
Well, I think the next show we should do is what we discussed the other day with, what's his name, Eric? Ziegel?
Larry, if you want to give it the German pronunciation, Ziegler, or in English, they would say Siegel.
Yeah, I was glad when you found this.
And that, of course, is very interesting because in that whole dialogue, there's no accusations.
Yeah, but you show here somebody
but
laying down vision of Maury's future theories to him. Yeah. He's opening him up to an area that Maury didn't know.
But Joe, I want to ask you this. How do you know, Joe, that he and his wife planted the Bible?
Well, planted it with his wife, found it with Gunnarsson days later.
I mean, are you just supposing that, Joe, or is there proof? I mean, I respect if it's a supposition or a
He's saying that he was there prior with the wife.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, something showed up when he went with cops.
Yeah. Good
Whether
point.
he planted it with his wife or by himself, whatever, but that's what he's saying.
Would his wife be complicit in something like that?
Maybe she didn't see him do it.
Again, I don't know. Who knows their relationship? Who knows how she was? We don't want to definitely put a shitty character on her if we don't know that. So
Yeah, perhaps she didn't see.
It would paint a pretty dark picture of her.
Who knows, Eric?
Yeah,
I know that it,
maybe that was
I
maybe she.
know that it was a heat wave. The heat out there at that time was tremendous. I mean, I don't even think we know what it's like to be in heat like that. You better have tons of bottles of water when you're in those desert areas in the summertime. Uh,
Richie said, is he related to Jason Segel? Who's Jason Segel?
no idea, but you know what's interesting? I was trying to find this fellow. In fact, I even have a conversation with him, and I found another Larry Siegel. But what's very eerie, he's not the same man.
Freaks and Geeks.
He's involved with psychology, and he lived next door to the Son of Sam one of the Son of Sam shootings. Isn't that eerie?
So is this Siegel in the book spelled Segal or is it Zeigal?
I think it's Siegel. Siegel.
Right. So it's a very interesting find by you, Eric, I must say. I'd never really paid. I've only read The Ultimate Evil once, I'm not going to lie. Perhaps I need to go and read it again with a fresh pair of eyes.
Well, if I were you,
what I know.
Since it is a very good work of literature as far as writing, because you're dealing with a man who came from a generation of authors. I'm reading a book now from a famous journalist, Stuart Alsop, and the language that's used back then. I was a child. Everything was much richer. They made references to profound cultural events, history, films, poets. You don't get that today. And Maury Terry is the last person at that time to use language like that. I mean, today, forget it with the bloody everything electronic. Larry Siegel, Siegel. That's the man.
Wow.
Well,
our next show, you can talk all about that, Eric.
It's a very interesting one because you will see that neither person is saying this one's guilty, that one's guilty. And it shows where Terry didn't know a thing really about this. One of the main.
You mean Terry didn't know a thing about his future theories that he can't. This guy was. Is that what you're saying?
He didn't have any theories up at this point.
Right.
It was all new to him. Right. He didn't know anything about the occult, and it's the proof that it overwhelmed him is when he's writing to Assistant District Attorney Tom McCarthy. And he writes, as I told you, about the license plate Magic-12 that one law enforcement officer in Yonkers had. And I found out, he gave the name. I spoke to Alfred Cavarini, and he affectionately laughed. He was a stage magician, and he was the 12th in a certain style of chair. But Maury Terry sees Magic-12. It's almost as if his mind became like certain. You find it even with Catholics and everything, but some of these American fundamentalist type Christians where, they see in one eye, and therefore, beware of the one eye, and
they start getting into a whole bunch of other stuff, right?
And everything is accumulated.
Right.
Look, magic. The guy's involved with evil.
Again, when does the work become uncredible where you're looking at his stuff and you really laugh? That's all I'm saying. And I don't want to disrespect the guy or his work.
No. And I laugh because I have a sense of humor.
Right. But when does that come in though?
Who?
The uncredibleness of his work. How many times do we have to see his work add up to not what was he was relaying? The whole 22 Disciples of Hell, Eric, it's all wrong. That was a house number.
Yeah, well, that
led into his cult in Yonkers. And right there, when you crack the letter, that disproves everything that he says with the 22 disciples, because it wasn't that he was speaking about. So then, when is enough enough?
Look, there's so many people who talk about things, but they don't investigate the topic or the object or look into it at all. They just get stimulated and excited. But I want to go back to Maximilian. Is there a way you could put Maximilian?
Yeah.
Okay, now have two good. Who are the suspects, Maximilian? Can you tell us who they are? Because some people believe that these suspects, I don't know if there were two or more, was sent from behind jail by Jesse Michael Turner, who was an adult in jail for doing something against the federal law with banking. And Robert Mapplethorpe, the photographer, lived on Bond Street, and it's on Bond Street that I believe Sisman had a post office box. So he went asking him about the snuff films. They knew that it was Sisman who had them. This is how it's related. And Turner said, because criminals on the inside of their contacts, he was a criminal. He was groomed. He was 10 years of age. Came, I think, from California. He was a boy prostitute. He had moved into the famous, what's the famous hotel that all the people who like Leonard Cohen and so forth went to, the Chelsea Hotel. And with the Chelsea Hotel, he was he was very close to Robert Mapplethorpe when he was going out with that woman who would become a rock and roller, Patti Smith. All this whole lewd environment. So one of the stories is that instead of roughing up Sisman and the girl Elizabeth Plotzman happened to be there, they were murdered. And Jesse Turner didn't care about the murder. He was just angry that he didn't get a cut of whatever they stole that was of value. But nothing more about the films, nothing more at all about the films. But, it involves Andrew Crispo, that whole environment. But it involves them in a center, a cultural center. But there's no actual, you've got to have proof. We can have our suspicions, but you've got to have proof. God forbid somebody was suspicious of the three of us. Let me tell you a story. I was speaking to a man I knew in England, and I said, why is so-and-so going around saying that this other friend who was being protected by the British authorities from Italy. He was a political militant. The British found no guilt on his part. The Italians did. Why is he saying he's not really a Catholic? He's a pagan. And so I spoke to the other man, and he says, oh, Eric, he's a guy in his late 70s. He's an old coot. If he was 20, I'd slap him in the face and say, stop this nonsense. So I told that to the first man I was speaking to. And he says, a threat has been made. I said, what threat? A slap in the face. You've passed on a threat. So I said, you're crazy. I said, this guy was such a frightened man, and he was like one of those Englishmen who was very Puritan, watch your tongue and all of that. But what happens is at the end of the week, the guy whom he claimed I passed a threat on about ended up in hospital. Some narcotics addict in Brixton had smashed a bottle over his head. And so there it went on that it was this political militant who sent people to do him in, and that I passed on the threat, and my name was given to the cops. And it was written about by extreme left people. You see what I mean? That's where you have to be very careful.
So you put a hit out on the guy?
Me?
Is that what you're confessing here to the audience?
No. Ginger, answer this. Was Maury, what do you mean? Oh, I don't remember Maury Terry being fond of Jesse Turner. Was he, Ginger? You've done a lot of research. You've got books and everything. You filled up about 30 pads. Can you extend upon that?
Yeah, I don't know what she means by that. I mean, he was mentioned several times later on, like around 1997, but I don't ever remember seeing Jesse Turner before then, to be fair.
I don't. He's in the Mapplethorpe biography by Morris Rowe, the authoress. It's an excellent, excellent work. Really, it really is excellent.
Well, Eric, I would like you to do some excellent work getting together the Seagull stuff for our next show. And yeah, as much as I would love to carry on with this chat, guys, it's 10:15 here in the UK, and I need to get some shut eye, as I have to be up very early.
All right.
So I want to thank you both. And I think I've come to the conclusion that David didn't really have any clue who killed Alice Perry. From all the information we have available, our resources. Yes. I don't know about you guys, but...
Well, he's talking about Berkowitz. Berkowitz is talking about a bar that some of the group hung out, and Berkowitz's claim was corroborated by a young man who also dropped by the Angry Square now and then. Jesse Turner, a jailed bank robber, was an admitted process associate. And I think, he supposedly was with them down in New Orleans. And,
Berkowitz?
Turner, Jesse Michael Turner. You can get, all of this is interesting, but you could get lost in a web of confusion that...
How many stories have we discussed just in this that have nothing to do with Berkowitz? Yeah, you can get lost. That's the problem with all that research.
And Maury did indeed get lost, didn't he?
And the fact of the matter is that you cannot in any way go deeper than what we're doing unless we had $1 to $2 million to do the research. I mean, it's a fact, not because we want to pay our gas and light bills. You need that money to do the research. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's just impossible. You need the money to do the research. And then when you have law enforcement say, yes, we know there were other murders, not this case, but other cases, it stimulates the mind into keeping you open about everything.
It's amazing that 48 odd years later, people like us and many others are still talking about this.
Well, you had a whole bunch of new information come forward in the past 2 years. You should be talking about it because the story that you had before is not the correct story. This is the correct story that we're trying to show here in a lot of these videos. That's why there is a lot to talk about. You've never seen this stuff.
And no one ever really was trying to debunk Maury's work.
And I'm still at question if Maury's seen everything that we see now.
Oh, there were people trying to...
I don't know. He could have.
A famous radio host, Bob Grant. He immediately in 1987 was knocking the book and everything.
Max says, I think once Maury found out that Raid Murder was about an actual film and not a snuff film, Maury dropped the snuff film idea. And if my memory serves me correctly, the whole snuff film stuff comes from Vinny.
Well, that's one area, but the other snuff film thing comes from people who are investigating Robert Mapplethorpe.
Ginger says, I can find the letter if anyone is interested or hasn't seen it, referring to Jesse Turner. Max says, I think Jesse Turner was a case of Billy the Artist Part 2.
No, wait, Jesse Turner, but how? I mean, Billy the Artist might very well be. I look at Billy the Artist's eyes, and I wouldn't trust him at all.
You don't have to.
You
don't have to trust him.
No,
trust the process.
Yeah,
you just have to remember the work that you're looking like. We've spoken plenty of times, the credibility of the work, and then listen to Billy, and it adds up for a reason, Eric.
Well, wait. Are you saying what? Are you saying that I'm denying something truthful about him, or I just
No,
his eyes? I
you
don't like.
want to look at him as a person and what he's saying and judge him on that. I don't see that. I want to listen to him and it adds up.
No,
What
no,
I'm
no,
looking
no, no. You see, I'm not going either way. Don't misunderstand me. I'm saying I see that guy's eyes when he talks. All right, and he plays with people. I see his eyes. I'd like to personally interview him. I see the guy's eyes.
But I'm saying the work.
He has smirking eyes. I don't like that. If I ask a question or somebody's talking to you and you have smirking eyes, knock it off.
Well, I don't think Billy the artist was the most honest person, Eric.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about honesty or dishonesty. I don't like the eyes like that. I become suspicious of people. That's me. That's me.
But like a lot of things, I already knew he was full of shit.
But when he's
but then when he confirms it, it doesn't add up. It's not a coincidence, Eric.
right,
That's what you got to get from that. You're once again, you already knew, and then
but you're both
it's not a coincidence.
misunderstanding me. You're both misunderstanding me. I'm not saying he's telling the truth then, and now he's telling the truth, and then it wasn't, or now it isn't, and he's covering up. No, I don't like the man's demeanor, the way he looks. Okay, I don't like people who turn their head like this and then smirk with their eyes. I don't like that.
Nah,
I'm very severe with that. I'm not saying,
different.
you know, but I wanted that. What makes me come up is that why? I mean, Maximilian said, "How is he part deux? How is he the second Billy the artist, Jesse Michael Turner? How?"
Billy bullshitter.
I think he means by playing Maury.
Yeah.
Was there that, but was there really that?
Remember, Billy Artist knew he was playing Maury. It wasn't until Maury convinced him that they were onto something, and they both believed it. He says it. So you see the power of Maury's manipulation there too. That's what I get out of that whole thing. I didn't need Billy the Artist to confirm was bullshit. I knew that already. But what I got from that meeting was that Maury was able to manipulate him, even though he knew that the drawings were fake. He knew what he was showing Maury was made up by him, but then Maury had the power to make him think it was real, because he states they both thought, again, they both went to a wake. So that's pretty insane, how the guy knew he was bullshitting the guy, but then was believing him.
Okay,
his drawings were people.
Here's what Maximilian says: fabricated or was hustled. So he's being fair. He says either Maury fabricated or he was hustled. He was hustled. The wool was, I guess that's what Maximilian means, by Alex Verone and Billy. And Alex Verone, you told me, Rena, is the composite of Vinny and Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Why not Turner? Well, it could be Maximilian, but they weren't going to give any freedom. They weren't going to give any freedom to Jesse Michael Turner. He was there for a federal offense with banking. I don't know if he died in jail or he died out of jail, but
well, we know prison informants aren't the most reliable, Eric, don't we?
No, as Rothstein told me, once they're in prison, they lose credibility.
Can we go back to there's no 22 disciples of hell for him to be drawing? Can we go back to that? There was no people he hung out in the park with that he drew, because there was no 22 disciples of hell for him to draw.
Right.
So,
and also, I don't know if this is where Maury got the idea from with the children, but we know David scribbled on his wall, Mr. Williams Hole, and he had several children, several children.
Well, we don't know
where he got the children idea from.
Maybe, but we do know from what he tells Caparelli, and it's in Caparelli's book. David, wait, let me finish, Max. He state he states the children. David Berkwood says that to Caparelli. He states this group. Yeah, he states there was this group, the children. fact, one day we should go over Caparelli's book. He states the children. David states that categorically.
What up, Max?
And that's in the book.
What's going on, Max?
States I'm the only one who did the killing, but Berkowitz does state there was the group, the children. They were a higher level.
All I'm trying to say is that we know Billy straight up hustled Maury, right? That's just what happened. And Verone, I don't know what that was about, but either he's giving Verone information and telling him to, because I don't even think Verone was ever locked up with David Berkowitz. Can anyone prove that ever? So that's weird. But then think about Jesse Turner is a bank robber from New Orleans. What does he know about?
No, wait. Jesse Michael Turner is one of these people who from a child up is involved with the believe me, this is where we get into another area that I'm investigating. Danny's Bar. I've got the name of somebody arrested with all the connections to New England, New York, and elsewhere. The whole point is Jesse Michael Turner is another bag of tricks, Maximilian.
Yeah, but the point is, if you hear that Maury's giving money out to people who are helping him with his story, whether that be giving Berkowitz typewriters, paying Alex Verone, giving Billy the artist $2,000 to get his teeth fixed, and you hear that and you find out that's going on, and you're like Neo said, you're in prison. You got nothing. You got nothing going on. You're in prison. Like, why wouldn't you try to get on that train and reach out to Maury and be like,
somebody who was basically a whore of the lowest depths of the sewer would do that, and Jesse Michael Turner would do that. I think it's quite possible. I'm not saying he did, but it's quite possible. I'm not discarding it.
Yeah,
I'm not discarding it. But Jesse Michael Turner is of a very different cut.
But yeah, fair enough. But then speaking to the whole thing was Maury thought there was a snuff tape because Zano told him, yeah, there was a van there. And then he finds out that Sisman's got a van, right? And so I don't know how, and then he knows there's a murder over a movie. Murder over a movie is a Cotton Club. But then he becomes obsessed with the fact that Sisman must have had the movie. And because the killing was around Halloween, which that really had nothing to do with Satanism. That's just when they could kill the guy. He believes the house is ransacked, and these two guys who were bouncers at bars near Sisman's apartment, who probably knew he was selling drugs out of the apartment, they go in there looking for the drugs. And Don Mounts, who investigated that murder, said that he thinks 100% it was a drug deal, that Sisman used to keep his stash under a full heat of brownstone, and the packages were kept under a fake step. It's like you could manipulate a step to push it up, and that's where he kept his drugs, which is really smart because they're not even in his house, and they couldn't find it, but they ransacked that house looking for it. And I think Maury thought that was over this snuff film. That if there was a snuff film of Stacy Moskowitz, that's coming out at some point. It's 50 years past the, you know what I'm saying? Like, someone's going to know that exists. Someone's going to say they've seen it. And the point also that what are you seeing? Again, like you're seeing someone shoot into a parked car. Wow, that's real exciting.
All right, wait. I don't know how Zino ever came to the conclusion of a snuff film.
No, but he co-signed that there was this van parked there with marijuana smoke coming out of no one. That's never been in a police report. No other witness has ever inferred that.
And Max, Vinny also had this detail. How did Vinny know this detail? If it wasn't for Maury feeding him information.
I think Maury told Vinny what.
But where's the proof that Maury fed Verone information?
Well, because again, if you can find me where Verone was locked up with Berkowitz, I look at the whole thing a little bit differently. Right. But you know how easy it is to tell someone, "Hey, write me this in a letter, and I'll give you $500."
Maximilian, I could see it either way.
Yeah, but we know that Maury made that huge list of people and just got David to co-sign it.
Also, that letter that Rena showed, that letter's sitting in Maury's files, right? Anyone could have found that letter. Why is that letter so horribly obscured? Why did I have to run it through whatever to get it to even legible to pass through ChatGPT? Why in the hundreds of pages of files, everything's pristine, this one letter is tampered with?
And it's not on the people
Why?
What
information was there that you feel were?
Well, it kind of knocks the Arliss Perry thing, down a peg.
As I said, if I'm starting from zero and I know nothing, this is the letter of a frightened man who's terribly concerned about something.
Yeah, but it doesn't make him look like or you think it helps that he knew that Menser was involved in this?
No, Menser's not in this letter.
No, but if you're going by Berkowitz was afraid because Menser told him that, and who would hold up a picture at a party and be like, "Hey guys, look who I killed"? Like, how dumb would that be? But if you're actually believing him, if you're actually
crazy,
no, but I'm not.
Just get up at a party. I killed Arliss.
You don't understand, Maximilian. I'm not saying I believe or disbelieve. I'm saying this letter that has been discovered and that was somehow electronically made to be clear, beautifully clear. If I came across this letter, I'd say this is a guy who's very frightened of things being known. Menson is not mentioned here.
What's he? I think he's frightened because he got it to the point where federal where agents were coming to see him across the country and visit him in prison because he's playing a little game, and like that, it's now it got serious.
And that's why he didn't help the Queen's investigators, because the heat was on.
Well,
and he knew he couldn't bullshit them.
But he's writing to the people in North Dakota.
Eric,
books, Eric.
What? Something else. She said he's sending books
and articles. He's hardly breaking news to them, is he? I mean, he's just sending them tidbits of articles that D Channel had sent him. That's all he's doing.
Well, he sent a book with a writing in it and things like that.
Yeah, just about Arliss Perry. I've got proof that William Menser killed Arliss Perry. And he's asking her if he thinks Ted Bundy did it.
How does he know she was hunted and stalked? Like, to me, that's just the whole thing. Playing games. That's exactly all the time playing.
For Maury to take it like that?
Huh?
You think he meant for Maury to take it like that?
I don't know. If Maury was looking at North Dakota and he finds out that Berkowitz finds out this woman is from North Dakota, what the perfect person to say, "Oh, she was hunted and stalked." Is there a
possibility?
You see,
he's a buff. Is there a possibility that he gave a shit and just
I would
back to Maury and figure, hey, maybe I can get this guy to look into it. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, hunted and stalk implies to me you have knowledge of how this went down.
That's right.
From D Channel, correct, or whoever?
I don't know.
It's ambiguous, Neil. It's ambiguous. There's times when he is informed of Arliss Perry by D Channel. He says he never knew of her, and then there's other times that he had clippings regarding Arliss Perry, and not from D Channel. The whole thing is that let me tell you, I don't call him a crime buff. Berkowitz. I think
he's a buff, all right, Eric.
I think he's quasi. Yeah, but he's
he's a buff. Trust me, because of this case, I've been around some buffs now. It's addicting to them.
Eric,
it's pretty crazy.
If you read the rest of the letters between Maury and Dee, that's practically all they talk about. The Hillside Strangler, Ted Bundy.
Yes. There's an interest there, undoubtedly.
And we know that
1,500 fires.
We know that D Channel and her husband were big on the occult. And I think she was feeding David information. And that's why he was reiterating it back to Maury later on down the line.
But you see, the whole point is that the gradation, the degree of association with Maury Terry, to my knowledge, I would like to know more of what it was much more of what it was before the release of The Ultimate Evil in 1990.
Well, the fact that Maury still went along with the Arliss Perry story, even though he was warned by David to lay off of it, speaks volumes to me.
I think also the
Oh, wait.
point that they've been trying to make this, what I've been able to listen to, I just came home from work, was at what point when you continue to see either Maury taking advantage of, Maury putting a fact in here, Maury twisting something, Maury getting something wrong, at what point do you start to go, I gotta verify everything this guy says? Because I'm not buying any of it.
Right. When people lie too much, you got to check everything right off the bat. No longer can you just take what he says and go from that. And if it comes up shitty, it comes up shitty. No, it's already shitty at this point. You know?
Mhm.
And we're seeing it time and time and time
And
again.
Eric, you're talking to me, one of the biggest Ultimate Evil fans, someone who defended Maury to the hilt. You know,
Right.
would always fight with Paul and whoever if they didn't agree. And like, you know, at some point, I just had to open my eyes and be like, you know what, man, like it doesn't add up, and it just doesn't add up for me after all this.
And
And
look what happened to you, Max.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you were shunned.
Yeah, you know, like, but now anytime I read, I look at the Ultimate. Well, I haven't looked at the Ultimate Evil in a long time, but I'm just like, I don't know if there's no source here. You know, like this isn't too many anonymous sources, too many things that can't be checked, too many inconsistencies. It's just, if that book was labeled historical fiction, I think it would have been a wonderful
Yeah.
piece of, you know, writing. But at this rate, I just.
All right. He asks D Channel if Ted Bundy was involved, but in this letter, he tells her for sure he knew Manson too did it.
But that's months later, Eric.
That's right.
And we don't know the source of that letter. We don't know if, I mean, God forbid, Maury could have made it up.
Yeah, poor Mensa really got dragged. I hate to say poor about a double murder.
A lot of these people. Yeah. Again, it's like, you know, you want to, like, take Sparaza, for instance, and the cars. You bother these people. They have lives. Nobody's perfect. Nobody wants them looking into this. When they lawyer up because they're being bothered, it's not because they're scared. It's because they don't want to be bothered. They're not involved, and they don't need any of their life spilling into trouble for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Or like the cars, for instance, they were really being bothered nonstop. People going to their house. They had to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. And the high price that they set was not being greedy in a way where, oh, we're not giving you the story. The high price of that was set because they didn't want to be bothered. They didn't want you paying it because they didn't want you to bother them. You know, no one paid it because it was a big amount. But again, people think they're not going to tell their story because they want all this money. No, that was not it either. They put it at a price where you were going to leave them alone.
Yes. Agreed. I agree.
No, there's too much that's open-ended.
You could look at it that way. You could, but like at some point, I think, and this is where I was. At some point, you got to go. This is the evidence that's laid out in front of me. Got this guy's book, this guy's documentary, et cetera, et cetera. This is the information that I have, and I'm going to have to make the best educated guess I can off that information. And that's, you know, otherwise you drive yourself crazy.
Look.
Why continue believing a lie?
You've known me from 2021. You know that I respect everybody's views, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't deny anything any of you are saying. I have different ideas about it. And I was also the first one in the big Son of Sam shows where I actually went after Terry and Kevin Murphy angry.
Right.
You know, I'm sick and tired of people who say they know things. I have this evidence. I have that. Well, why don't you come forward? Maury Terry's criticisms for me is that I didn't like the way he investigated. He could have gone and interviewed de Grimston and the Process Church of the Final Judgment, those who had been members of it. Why? They had literature out there, so he comes across their literature. And he could have gone, he didn't have to mention Son of Sam, he could have gone and said, listen, I'd like to interview you, you know, about your theology and things like that, but I don't think he had the sophistication to do that. I don't think he was capable of doing that. The way he asks questions sometimes, this is my criticism, is that he's treading because he's got to make sure he doesn't fall into quicksand. That's what I find annoying. I find annoying so much that should be questioned and is not questioned. You
There
know
was a lot questioned, though.
what?
There was a lot questioned.
Not good enough for me. I mean, George. I told you, George Bird with Wheat Car. Um, why did they not proceed? What did these guys think? Did they write up reports about the difference between Fred Daigle
So,
and Wheat Car?
Eric, I've never asked you this. What do you think about Jack Jones? Do you think that he is an idiot or anything?
No. I think Jack Jones is.
Again, I don't mean this. I don't want to say idiot. I want to come up with a different word than that because he thinks Berkowitz was alone, and he talked to him. He got his answer. So, again, I know the cops. You don't want to Abrahamson, but what do you think about Jack Jones? Do you think that he fooled Jack Jones?
No. Did he fool Jack Jones?
That's a better word because Jack Jones is not an idiot.
No, I think first place Jack Jones. I think I could tell by his look, his demeanor.
Oh, the tape were excellent.
I think he's a very fine person. He walks away believing that Berkowitz was alone.
But do you think Berkowitz fooled him?
I think Berkowitz was playing with everybody.
With Jack Jones?
Yeah, everybody. But the reason why I say that is because he changes. He's speaking to people at the same time as Jones.
Again, $1 million. Pick a side. You going with the detectives, Abrahamson and Jack Jones, or are you going with Maury? $1 million, Eric.
I'll tell you who I'm going with.
You have to pick one. You get $1 million. It's pretty easy.
Myself. Well, I would never put Abrahamson with Jones.
Why not? He comes clean with Abrahamson.
He comes clean with him. He knocks them with Caparelli.
I think Caparelli had said something. He was a little angry at his mother at the time. Maybe that was the Jack Jones one, and he could have been impartial to how he was explaining some stuff because of his anger towards them. But he was truthful to Abrahamson and Jack Jones. They have the same thing.
I don't think he was truthful. He denied. He even denies further on down the road, years later, that he wasn't being truthful, that he used them.
Who, Abrahamson?
Yeah, in different words. I'll have to find it. I'm not lying.
You've looked at that work in a totality. Come on, man. He was telling him the truth. Everything adds up. He was telling you about his mother and how he felt. He was telling you he confessed to the shootings.
I scrutinized that work very, very well.
What made you think he was bullshitting him, Eric?
Look, let me finish. I scrutinized that work very, very well. There are interesting things that come out about Berkowitz's mind when he's speaking to him, like loving young women and his fantasy of going into a cemetery, digging up young girls who had died and dismembering their cadavers. That's a very sick mind right there.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I don't care, what makes me think he's BSing him, there was something I found at the same time he's with Abrahamson, a statement he makes to a reporter in Newsday. There's contrary statements that he's making, and he where he BS's Abrahamson is the very last letter of where he says, "You were all my puppets, but not you, Dr. Abrahamson. You believed me. I couldn't fool you. You knew the truth." And
right.
and let me go to Caparelli's book. But
hold on a second, too. Do you know? And I have the dates. Abrahamson was paired up with Berkowitz, and he took the time out to go visit Goncalos, Netos, Cars, Caceres.
I'm
right. So just like I did. And when you meet these people and realize that Berkowitz is really full of shit with his using these people in his demon stories, he can approach them in a different way because he really had the facts to the story talking to the people he was involving. So that's an advantage Abrahamson had talking to him.
Well,
he could eliminate that nonsense with him, which he was given to everybody else beforehand, because he had talked to the people that Berkowitz was involving and knew the real story.
I'm glad you brought out about Abrahamson going to Yonkers, because I've been told I'm totally wrong about that.
I got it on record.
And I was right. When Abrahamson was sent to Yonkers to investigate, and somebody else involved in this investigation said,
which is what you do. Okay. He had a patient telling him about these people, and instead of just trying to figure it out,
even before though, he had him as a patient. This is like just when he was arrested. Abrahamson went to Yonkers.
Yes, but I think it was after was listening to Berkowitz, and then he went and looked into his patients.
Well, he might have gone twice. It doesn't mean, you don't take a trip once, but just when he was arrested, he went there, and somebody said to me, well, the natives say they never remember the guy, they never remember this, they never remember that, but it's documented. I mean, remember, he wasn't the first. He was part of a team. It was Schwartz, Daniel Schwartz, who was the
But
first.
Schwartz didn't talk to the people like Abraham.
No, but you see, they were part of a team, and at that time in '77, it's even.
Oh, Abrahamson wasn't part of Schwartz.
They were all part. They all knew each other. They were working together in the beginning, but Schwartz was the head man with an assistant. And Abrahamson, at the time that Berkowitz was with Schwartz and when he was arrested, went to Yonkers to go and see these people that Berkowitz had mentioned at that early juncture. Now, he might have gone again, as Paul has documentation, when he was with Berkowitz, but he also went to Yonkers before that. That's the whole point. And so I was talking to Dr. Ronald Morton Chase, who's a top psychiatrist, and he says, well, they were saving their ass by going there. They had to make look that they were really caring. But, it's you're right. Abrahamson did the right thing, Paul, Neo. He did the right thing to go and speak with these people. But he did do that initially, very early on, very, very early on. But
yeah, I'm trying to find the date here when he.
I'm not saying that's the only time. I'm not saying that's the only time. He did that early on when Berkowitz was arrested.
Yeah, it wasn't too far after the arrest. I know that.
Yeah, so that was good on his part. But
absolutely, because it helped him be able to. Eric, it helped him be able to ignore that stuff, which he was telling Klausner and everybody else, and get into David Berkowitz's life. And Berkowitz was able to open up with that.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he couldn't talk about this Sam stuff to him because it wasn't going to work. The guy didn't want to hear it.
But you see, aside from Maury Terry, what do you say about Berkowitz saying, even before the immense popularity of The Ultimate Evil, saying that he didn't make up the demonic? What do you say about that? He's telling A, B, and C, no, the demon story's not good, the dogs. But then he tells X, Y, Z, a different story in the same timeline. Now, I'm not trying to say one is true and the other isn't. We're dealing here with a very clever, sick mind who, for some reason, is playing people off against each other.
I think it all boils down to attention.
Okay. But it's a very serious thing he's doing. I mean, you always have to reflect upon the victims. Look at Mrs. Jones Smith Keenan, the sister of Rosemary Keenan.
Abrahamson even interviewed Nathan.
She says,
I'm looking at it now. I'm sorry to interrupt because I'm just looking at it now. In September, he started going around, right? So Abrahamson really talked to everybody involved with Berkowitz's life.
Well, I'm glad that you backed me up on that because I was told that I was wrong. It didn't happen. It never happened. And
I got documented dates of him visiting. I can tell you when that was September 15th, I think it was. He went to Nathan and spoke to Nathan. And like I said, I have them all here documented. Meadows.
Nathan. Oh, Berkowitz. Not
yeah,
Berkowitz.
His father.
Yeah.
So I do back Abrahamson stuff up. I do. He did the right work and it adds up with what the cops have, and it adds up with Jack Jones's stuff, and adds up with the stuff that I came across. I mean,
but the whole point I'm making is David Berkowitz reverses himself on that. So if we can't deny the adding up
because
there,
it's about who he's talking to, Eric.
Right, but what about the adding up here? The adding up there, yes. The adding up here, no. That's my point.
He uses who he can to get what he wants. He knows he can't play around with the cops. Okay, he knew he couldn't play around with Abrahamson. He took it serious. Look at the work Abrahamson did. He really took it serious. Okay, and he knows he couldn't play around with Jack Jones.
I wish there was an index in that Caparelli book because I've got to find what I read. I
just think he's in prison, Eric. Okay, even if he wants to do good, how long does it last for all of us? Sometimes we all want to do good. We all fall off sometimes. He's in prison, got nothing. Someone gets a hold of him. He sees somebody he can take advantage of. Why wouldn't he change up a whole bunch of stories? That's what the person wants. That's what's going to keep him alive in prison. If he doesn't continue to do this nonsense, right, to certain people, he's really got nothing, and he's in prison. And he knows that's all he has to do. If you're him, wouldn't you do it? I mean, you're in prison on lockdown, Eric.
The whole
You have a
point.
choice: entertain yourself or not. What are you going to do?
Well, it's a shame he darkened his soul, but the fact of the matter is, people were murdered. Okay, the one that affects me the most is Lamino with a cracked spine. A young girl wanted to be a dancer, maybe, and for 40-something years is in a wheelchair. She can't even wash herself or anything. I'm not going to have.
She passed away, Eric.
That's right. I'm not going to.
What about Carl, who he lies to his face?
I have a limit.
Okay.
What
I know
about?
we know he lied to Nisa and he lies to Tommy, but we don't have him. He lies to Carl's face. What about that?
Yes, but which is the lie?
Doesn't matter.
Just
One of them.
Yeah, but that's right. It doesn't matter. He's lying to him. He's playing with him.
Right. He's got to be lying because he has two different stories. So either one.
He's torturing him. He's torturing him.
Again,
And
I
then
don't know.
Gennaro, it's not true.
Yeah, but you know which one makes the most sense, Eric, don't you?
What?
The night of his confession.
The what of his
The
confession?
night of his confession. Everything adds up. Everything's and you laugh. Eric, I always go back to the confession before everybody else came along and interjected their little stories.
They didn't have to interject stories. He did a good job of it on his own.
Yeah, but if you just take his initial confession at face value and none of the other stuff came in afterwards, all you would have is that guy confessing.
Listen. I believe Dave. I didn't involve myself in this thing. I believe David Berkowitz was the killer. I did until 1985. I happened to meet a detective at a guy's house. I didn't even know that he was involved in the case. I knew nothing about this.
Yeah, but if others hadn't got involved, Eric, David would have never gone along with anything else. He
Do
would
you
have been
s-
forgotten about to the
Do
history
you
book.
see how many little things came out with the Queen's DA tape that are problematic? Like, first of all, Barry this New York City is as hot as could be. Everyone's looking for this murderer, and this guy Barry DeSenko decides to come to New York from North Dakota to shoot poor Stacy Moskowitz. For what reason? And risk his freedom. And then the Queen's DA call this guy, and he sounds like he just woke up and is more concerned with getting back his stained glass window than anything else. And
Yeah,
then
he asked like 4 times, Max.
Pat O'Shaughnessy, who were led to believe might have been a shooter. Again, they spoke to him for what, 3 hours?
Okay,
I mean,
number one,
All of the people accused.
there's two.
There was a
things.
ton on there.
Where-
yeah.
Where does Barry Dostenko first come in on the scene? Who's given the security name Malenko? Where does he first come in?
Ask Maury. I don't know.
Where does he first come in?
Wait,
Maury.
did I have that wrong before and put Menser at the Moskowitz? Was it?
I mean, I wouldn't blame you. It changed quite a bit, I believe. But no, it was supposed to be Dosenko.
Yes, that's who it was. I'm sorry, I had that wrong before. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
That's another poor guy who got blamed for.
yeah, because he looked like the sketch with his hair.
Yeah.
I almost called that guy.
He's still around.
Yeah,
Live. Well, Barry Dostenko got involved with narcotics.
Yes, so okay, but right. So Maury found people who might not have been,
So did Roy
choir
Ray.
angels, and suddenly now they're all 22 disciples of hell.
But you see, let me put it this way. When I didn't know Chinotti was a detective who was involved with Son of Sam when I met him. I met him over theological, religious reasons. I had met somebody at a church, and I was home for a while from Italy, 1985, and Malenko. Can't even see what the hell I'm doing here. I'm trying to find out where Malenko comes in. And
He was supposedly one of the Cars associates in Minot. And somehow he gets turned into the Moskowitz shooter. Somehow, I don't know how that one happens.
Sketch.
What about Roger Flood? What about Roger Flood? This guy in the Ultimate Evil that Maury claims had foreknowledge about the occult, and then it's Roger Flood, and then the Queen's DA calls this guy and says, "Is that true?" And he totally denies it. I mean, there's so many. Eric, I could take that book and I could pick out 1,000 things that make no sense. None.
And what came out of the DA?
Clarity. I mean, like a lot of
confirmation.
Exactly. Your book, The Queen's DA, all that. That the killer tapes. These things all started to challenge the narrative.
It was the narrative.
The guy who brings up Barry Desenko is Knoop, as the detective in North Dakota.
Again, those guys.
He brings him up.
I don't like their posture and all this.
Even if they were running around killing chickens, like that makes them cult members in New York and killers.
Well, the urine thing is nasty, and whatever the hell that was. I mean, what the hell was up with those stories?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, fine, but a killer it doesn't make you. It does not.
Ginger said what came out of the DO was a lot of leads that were never followed up on. Ginger, why would the Queen's DA waste all their money and then not follow up on credible leads? I don't understand that.
They did.
No, but she did nothing. She's saying nothing ever happened.
Well,
yes, they didn't find anything.
There were leads that were given to them, and they just weren't followed up on.
Who would you have liked them to lock up?
Follow Goncalo in the yellow Volkswagen. That was.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
That was a lead that Maury was giving. I mean,
but who specifically? Like, who's someone that you say and you go, why didn't they? This person.
There's a letter between Terry and McCarthy. And in the correspondence, he says, well, Chinotti doesn't want to spend his own money. You should be following this lead. You've got to convince them because Hank Chinotti can't spend his money and do it privately. And nothing came of that.
No, at
the same time, Ginger, if you're listening in, I'm not doubting you, Ginger, but you've got to be exact. You've got to tell us what leads.
Show me an accusation by Maury that got concluded
successfully. Right. He said this person played this part.
No one's attacking you at all. This is conversation here. No. Glad to have you here so we can have an adversary to it all.
I know that nobody's attacking me. I
don't want you to feel like that.
Look, I will be the first one to be severe in criticizing Maury Terry from an investigative point of view because I don't like stimulants. Okay, I want proof. He touches this, he touches that. I don't doubt everything. Other things I do, but it's like I had said to somebody. He discovered all these other crimes and tried to put them together as all being part of the Son of Sam. Because of the proximity
to put them together is the key word.
Yeah. You see, because they were in the same proximity, and some of them happen to be involved in cult things. Now, I would have, like, for example, just reading an excerpt from the book, Terry Gardner, because there's a lot to take in. I remember everything, but to take in the detail I want, Terry Gardner tells Chinotti and Berkowitz and Maury. Berkowitz and John Carr knew each other. Well, nobody there said, well,
that's false. Exactly why I don't like those guys.
But not even Hank.
You say I stick up for law enforcement all the time. I'm not sticking up for those guys over there.
Well, Terry Gardner has a page on the Internet Movie Database because he was.
I don't like, what was it, Geitzen in the documentary, what he said. I don't like that he says he went to John Carr's house, where he killed himself, and he knocked on the door and then heard a shot.
Well, that's
he's got a different story than that's the only place in this that there's two stories, Eric. Again, with the stuff. Okay. And then just their whole posture, their sunglasses, there's nothing that goes on up there. It's all snow. It's just the
When-
things they were feeding Maury with were just, I think, for cameras.
when
They wanted in on some action.
I don't think you people are old enough to remember a cartoon called Deputy Dog,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
When Gianotti arrives in North Carolina and he sees them with cowboy hats on, he goes, "Hey,
Right.
there's Deputy Dog here," you know. But
Their information was not good when you look at it.
yeah, but there's other things. Like, for example, I was speaking to
So
Gwen.
again, the credibility to me, even as a law enforcement, you see, I'm not favorable. They're
Well,
law enforcement, and I
very-
do
I'm
not
very-
think they're credible.
Yeah, I'm very severe because I was I called up. I said, "Can you help me get Michael Canoop?" And the woman says, "Oh, Mike's not in." But I said, "Will you give him my telephone number to call me?" And he never did. He never did. He never called. And Gwen, during Kubanes, a lovely lady, she says, "Oh, I know him." I says, "Can you put me in touch with him?" Now, why won't you put me in touch with him?
There's no other.
What's with this hide and seek?
There's two stories there, Eric. You
That's
know,
what I don't like.
and then you got the fishiness of the whole death. That's what I don't like. Right.
But, and then also the other thing is how no, what was it there? Oh, I forgot. I forget what I was going to say about something. It just gets me. Oh well, that North Dakota did send material to one of the police departments in the city of New York, and they never got answers back. There was no reciprocation, and they should have reciprocated with them. Forget about what they.
I don't think they want. What year was this? You got to know that. I think they were done entertaining Maury, maybe.
I think it was before Maury Terry, but I can't be sure. I can't be sure. There's so much that has to
Because
be.
when the DA goes out and comes up with nothing, and then you have North Dakota trying to mail stuff back to New York, they might be fed up at that time because there's nothing.
But you see, this is the thing. Why would people be stimulated? George Rutledge. Why would George Rutledge tell me I wanted to reopen the case in 1995? Now, remember, this is a police historian. Yonkers deputy chief
Eric,
wants to reopen.
why they didn't want to? Yeah, but you're asking why they wouldn't let them reopen it because they already know all their answers.
No, it was the Queens County District Attorney Robert, not Richard, Robert Edward or Alan Brown. He said, no, the case is closed. He went to Queens. It wasn't in Westchester County. He went to Queens for that. It's look,
Again, they didn't want to pay attention to Maury either because they had their answers. And as you see, a lot of the stuff Maury had wasn't adding up. These are detectives telling them to scram too. What
I would want to know is, and I'm not being antagonistic, I haven't mentioned this man's name in donkey's years, for a long time. Why won't Kevin Murphy come on and speak and be a guest?
I had him. I spoke to him. I try to get you. He doesn't want to really be bothered by this stuff.
But he does. But the thing is that he does not believe Berkowitz was alone, right?
No, he doesn't believe Berkowitz was alone, and
and I'm not asking that antagonistically. I mean,
he ran into a lot of stuff like Maury. He ran into a whole bunch of his own stuff.
Actually, Joshua Zeman believes that Kevin Murphy, out of all the policemen, knows more about this than anyone.
I think he knows more about, once again, what he looked at, which has nothing to do with the Son of Sam, as I can show you here. But he did real work on some real stuff. Yeah, he could tell you a lot about the stuff he looked at, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm not being antagonistic with the man, but it's just, we can't look at Chinote or Rothstein anymore because it's just not possible. They are not able to contribute anything now. Nothing. Kaput.
Yeah.
They're alive, but it's just not there. And I would place more on Rothstein than Chinote because Hank would something happened to him, but let's not get into all of that. But Like I say, I don't deny what the three of you are saying. I just have a broader view. For me, I have a broader view in a different area. Not that you people are narrow, because there's questions, questions, questions,
And the
questions.
process that was brought in to this, the whole scene of it.
And
Remember,
it's brought in now. It's just brought in to
but I'm just saying, there's no group that splintered off and gathered in Yonkers. That 22 disciples of hell is wrong. So the whole process and the whole 22 and the whole group in Yonkers that, again, I walked around my
Yeah,
city.
Eric, keep in mind the process being in Yonkers. You know what that's based at? You know why Maury people believe that, including myself, because this Ken guy who was certainly in the process and ranking member was supposedly there because Billy sketched him. And like once that's taken out of the equation,
Also, yes.
what
Yep.
proof is there at all
Well,
that the
the only
process was ever in
Ken
Yonkers?
was also contacted, and
reason-
Ken was contacted, this person who supposedly Ken was supposed to be, and nothing adds up again.
There's only two people who state that the process was in Yonkers, but not just in Yonkers. The process definitely had money. Bermuda, Mexico, all over Canada.
But the splintered group, the process, the children, the 22 disciples of hell, didn't happen. It's not what Berkowitz was talking about.
Well,
Clearly.
in my opinion, when Maury Terry finds the 22 disciples of hell, it's like finding Alfred Chiavarini's Magic -12 on a license plate.
But doesn't it add up to Eric? I mean, I went around to everybody. I even pulled some people
I
that
don't
we
believe
thought were in it, and none of it adds up. And
I hold no credibility to the 22 disciples of hell. I hold no credibility to it. Because
But what proof is there that the process was in Yonkers?
well, let me put it this way. There's Catholics in Yonkers, and there's Catholics in Manhattan, and there's Catholics in Bermuda. There were members. I'm told. Okay, I'm only going by what Peter Lavender has told me. I'm only going by a lot of these other people who have nothing to gain. I mean, these people were around. They were around.
Yeah, but Eric, you've got David in 2015 saying he learned about the process through pamphlets and literature, and they were these crazy group of people that were calling, Judgment Day, and
right.
That's how he learned about them.
Okay. And then there's the timeline that changes that, where he tells Caparelli, I don't think he says in 2015.
No, there's an interview on YouTube of David saying
yes, I don't deny that. But then years later, 8 years later, he's telling, Caparelli started to question him in 2021, I think. Well, whatever.
Yeah, well, still, the Caparelli, he said he did all the shootings alone.
After he was telling him he was with others, and then his conscience changed.
He also got Moloch confused with Caparelli.
And he also is calling Sam Hain a demon, which is not. I mean, how credible is the guy?
See, I'm not justifying Berkowitz or unjustifying him. My timeline shows how the guy changes his story. He lies. And the fact that he's lying, the fact that he's hiding something or that he's deliberately fabricating is that Maurice Dubois interview I returned.
Yeah, but
neither says yes or no.
No, but Neo makes a good point. He didn't play with law enforcement. He played with people who were playable.
Right.
A whole lot
He
of
knew who he could play. When Detective Murphy goes in there, he's not a law enforcement to him. He's sent in with Maury's stuff. He knows the game he's playing with Murphy. So, again, you got to exclude lying law enforcement. I know Murphy's law enforcement, but Murphy was one of the law enforcement that went in through Maury's stuff. So he knew what he had to play with him.
But he only
Now, did Murphy see him while on the job, or was Murphy retired?
I think he did go in with Maury quite a few times, based on Maury's notes, which I don't even know if you can believe those. But I think he did go in with Maury and say, I think he's bulldog.
Was he on the job, or was Murphy?
I think I'm pretty sure he was on the job.
You sure?
Well, when did he stop? When did he leave?
Because I know he only
I
got
didn't
3
even
years
know.
left when he opened this. So
When did Murphy leave the
I'm not
force?
sure.
I don't know.
2000, but I can tell you right now, I didn't even know Murphy went to visit Berkeley.
But if you read Maury's notes, he mentions going to see Berkowitz with two guys, Bulldog and I think it's Riptide. Bulldog is Murphy, Riptide is Don Mounds.
So now Murphy's going in there with him.
With Maury and Berkowitz, 100%.
But
Right.
that Berkeley,
So it's not the same as if he's getting drilled by Zigo.
but
No.
and he refuses Mike Cordella.
Right, which is
Mike is a real cop. Mike is real deal. New York grit. He ain't playing with Mike.
Yeah, and I think that's why he didn't
He
want
knows
to assist the
from Mike.
VA.
You get me? Mike has his own work with all this, and he believes whatever he wants to believe. But that's another guy there too. You ain't messing with that guy.
Well, with Cordella, there's the Tiny Lentini story. He was investigating Potts.
And Mike don't need Maury to go in when you think about it. Mike could go in on his own.
Eric, it's funny you mentioned Cordella because when he read on air a letter that Berkowitz wrote him when he says about Maury Terry, we had more bad times than good. What does that mean? Why do they have any bad times?
Rita was stating something this morning where Berkowitz was upset about being misquoted by Maury. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there was a lot of times Maury was putting out quotes from Berkowitz and he was getting upset.
Why were they estranged basically for how many years that these guys?
10 years. 10
why?
years.
No, but I'm talking about even to his death. Why weren't these guys seeing eye to eye? What was happening there?
Yeah, the correspondent, I think the last letter in Maury Terry's files was 1999, and then there's no other letters between them two.
So
it's weird. There's so many. Why did Maury ever finish the? Eric, I was in that Maury Terry Facebook group every month. This guy, new version of the book coming soon. Epilogue's going to answer all your questions.
Yeah, I spoke with him over the phone. The second to last time we spoke, I remember where I was sitting, and I says, "No, I only have the 1987." He says, "Oh no, you've got to get the last edition, the second one."
No, I'm talking about the one that never came out, that he promised to all of us clowns.
You're not letting me finish. He said, "There's so much more in that book." And so when I finally got it, I didn't see so much more. There's an epilogue that's interesting, but there's not. And what impressed me when I read The Ultimate Evil out loud to my wife, practically a chapter a day, it made her sick though. There's no interest in it. It was because of the excellent book by Tom O'Neill and Dan Piper, Bring Chaos.
Yes.
Which is very well done.
Well, that's a real book.
Yeah, and it's reading Terry's introduction, which is not in the first edition I have here that has the dog on it. It's almost as if it's a continuance of O'Neill. One is led from being involved in this culture by way of O'Neill and Piper Bring. I don't mean by lead being manipulated. You see what I mean? You're taken into this world of so much going on. Let me give you an example. He's the first to have access to the files of Jolly West. Was it Lewis? I forget the guy's first name. Jolyon West, right? Known as Jolly West. A real sick mind if there ever was one. And he finds in Oregonian papers a speech that West made there that he did experiment on people. So when you come across that information, it exacerbates in me a different perspective reading 37 years later the book. I hadn't read the book. I read it in 1987. That was it.
Do you think Tom O'Neill's credible?
Yes, I do. Because
you ever speak to him about what he thinks of Maury Terry and The Ultimate Evil?
I have. He will answer me because the person who did most of the research for him, who's in the book, she got tons and tons of.
I know, Glenna. I know, it's Glenna.
She got tons of
He
documents.
doesn't find Maury to be credible.
Well, that's quite. That could be quite true.
I asked him straight out.
Well, did you ask him why does he find him not credible?
I said, hey, I wonder if, your book's great. I read it. Did you ever look into Maury? And he was basically like, yeah, I did. It really wasn't stuff that I believed, basically, is what he said. So, and that's a guy who really dug and dug. He wasn't just trying to get a quick paycheck, because he could have. It took him a long time to write that book.
And yet he's being knocked and attacked by people.
Well, that's going to happen no matter what, whenever you have a strong opinion. But the point, he didn't hide sources. He went on Rogan. He told you everybody's name he spoke to. When people sort of browbeat him down and filibustered him and blocked him, he told you who those people were. He didn't wait till they died to do it either. The guy, that's what the ultimate evil should have been, but it's unfortunate.
Supposed to write an article for the
I know.
30th anniversary
of the Manson murders.
And instead, almost he goes on writing for another. Was it 1999? Was the 30th? The book comes out in 2019. That's 30
years.
30 years later. Is it
20? It's 20 years later.
20 years later, because he didn't give up. He came on to something. And he kept having to borrow money here, there, and everywhere. He was not a man of literature like Terry. That's why Dan Piper Bring had to put it into a good literary format. And he is co-author because you have to be in the mind of the man you're working with.
Right.
To put it across. That's why I think Caldanaro, his book, I like very much. Carl's book, he's even critical of Terry. He brings things out about Terry. But he needed a better co-author than Brian Whitney, if that's the name. Brian Whitney? Right. Yeah, he needed a better co-author. But I read his book after Neo's. Look, Glenna and myself will tell you, Neo's book is excellent. And she's rock hard. She believes
it's okay.
She believes that he was not alone. She believes he was not alone, Berkowitz. But she said Neo's book is excellent.
Right.
So that's the type of open mind you need, and not somebody who uses scatological language by saying, this is shit, that's shit, this person
And
has...
she really helped out Paul O'Neill a lot, huh?
What?
No, Tom O'Neill.
Tom O'Neill, sorry. Paul O'Neill, the old Yankee. Yeah, he really helped this guy, Tom O'Neill, out with that book.
So did Paul Hart, supposedly. I think.
Not this book. In the sequel that's supposed to be coming out, Paul Hart has been working. But Glenna got tons and tons and tons. Glenna interviewed, this is open. She spoke with the detective who used a word with her that I have been making common years before, who they wanted to put into a mental institution about the Manson case. Now, I get the name wrong. I think it's Guilfoyle. Don't quote me on that. But this detective suffered because there with the Manson case, it's proven you've got so many documents that won't be released, hidden, missing, and so forth. Then you've got Bugliosi, who's a crackpot. Yet at the same time, it now comes out that Bugliosi's saying there were other murders. We know there are other murders. So it's a different type of literature. O'Neill's book, a very, very different type of literature.
Guys, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I really must be hitting the hay.
It's late. It's late in London.
I tried to end this an hour ago.
Late in London. I thought you were already in bed.
Yeah, I could have just left you on there if someone had controls of the screen.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm here. I try not to do these, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I thank you, Max. You're always welcome.
All good. All good.
Eric?
Yeah. All right.
I look forward to you doing another show with me and Neo and maybe Max on this Siegel character.
Probably not.
Because you really laid the foundations for this.
Never know.
Well, I actually just...
What?
And we've lost Eric.
No, Eric.
Eric.
Yeah, we put in the time anyway. This is good, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
This was
Till
All
next
right.
time. Yeah.
Thank you two for joining us.
Of
And I
course.
wasn't expecting that. And
Yep.
yeah,
Have a great weekend.
Ta ta.
we'll be back.
Goodbye.